Chapter 1276. The people of Zelda hope to find food and have a full meal. Some of the crew members on the spaceship were killed by these people. Some of the crew members held weapons and killed these filthy lowlifes in a frenzy. However, a large number of ants could kill an elephant. These people only had one thought in their minds. As long as they occupied this spaceship, they could leave Zelda and have food to eat. They destroyed things like crazy and looked for food everywhere. Ning Shu and the team pushed forward with difficulty. Ning Shu dealt with the robots, and Alveus dealt with the surrounding probes. Although these robots might transmit the information they received to the artificial intelligence, it was better to destroy as much as possible. Many people from planet Zelda fell. Not even their bodies were left behind. They were turned into ashes. Ning Shu gritted his teeth. If he wanted to break through the situation in front of him, there would definitely be sacrifices. Staying on planet Zelda was death, and retreating now was death. It was better to move forward. If you want to gain something, you have to lose something. Living itself was a difficult thing. For Ning Shu, it had always been very difficult. The number of robots gradually decreased. He didn't know if it was because there were fewer robots on the spaceship or if they were preparing for some big move. The group came to a thick metal door. It looked a bit like stainless steel, but it was probably made of a more expensive material. There was no handle or anything to open the door. There was a scanner beside the door, which was probably used to check the identity of the person inside. Ning Shu felt a toothache. How was he going to get in? He felt that the cockpit should be inside. Ning Shu hit the door with a laser, but the door didn't react at all. It was as clean as new, and there weren't any black spots or spots left on it. What should he do now? Knock on the door or wait for the person inside to come out? Ning Shu thought for a moment and took out a 5-pointed star military badge from his pocket. Ning Shu had taken this badge off Joyce when he was grabbing him. He didn't know if this thing would work. Ning Shu held the badge and carefully reached out to the detection range. "Honorable Joyce, please come in." A female voice sounded. However, this voice was synthetic and sounded very mechanical. The door slowly opened, and Ning Shu took the lead and went in. The people in the cockpit were already in a mess. Someone scolded, "This AI is retarded. Can it even work? Raise your hands." Ning Shu raised his gun at these people. A group of people behind him rushed in and followed Ning Shu. "Raise your hands." Being stared at by the laser gun, these people were a little afraid. They knew too well how powerful this gun was. "Capture them," Arvez said to Owen. Owen immediately stepped forward and tore off the rags on his body. He tied up the hands and feet of these people. There weren't many people in the driver's seat, so they were quickly tied up. Ning Shu hugged the gun and looked at the huge cockpit. It was complicated with all kinds of buttons and screens. Oh my God, it's too complicated. It's like watching a sci-fi movie. Ning Shu moved its claws, indicating that it was rather difficult. She had to get used to it first, or else she wouldn't be able to use it. It seemed that she had to learn how to use the spaceship. Vivian helped Arvez to Ning Shu's side. Arvez clicked on the picture and pressed a red button. Beep beep beep. A hurried sound came from the cockpit. "Are you sure you want to destroy the AI? If you destroy it, the safety of the spaceship won't be guaranteed." A synthetic female voice sounded. "I suggest changing the AI's operating method. I don't recommend destroying it." Arvez sneered and glanced at the people who were tied up. "I know you've already sent out the message." The people who were tied up all shook their heads in fear. Arvez's expression was indifferent. He pressed another button and a few cages descended from the sky, covering these people inside. "If you don't want the AI to be destroyed, you'd better be obedient," Arvez said. He changed the operating method of the AI. He sat on a chair and placed his legs weakly on the ground. Yarvi clicked on the overlapping screens, dazzling everyone's eyes. Ning Shu looked at Arvez from the side. Was this Arvez Eliza's brother? He obviously wasn't. From then on, Arvez took control of the spaceship. Warning, warning, a heat source is approaching the spaceship, the synthetic female voice said unhurriedly and emotionlessly. Two fireball-like things appeared on the screen and flew towards them. Ning Shu was speechless. A mecha pilot's vitality was so tenacious that they could actually struggle out of the fuel. Also, after being burned for so long, the mecha's equipment wasn't damaged. Technology really changed lives. Do you want to destroy the heat source? The synthetic female voice asked. Arvez pressed a button and a ray of light shot out from the spaceship. Seeing this ray of light, Manson and Joyce's faces were filled with extreme fear. They tried their best to escape but still couldn't. When the ray of light hit them, it instantly vaporized. Ning Shu's eyelids twitched wildly. He felt as if his worldview had been attacked. Oh my God! Even a powerful cultivator wouldn't be able to withstand an attack like this. Technology relied on external objects to possess great power. It studied genes and improved the defective genes of humans, thereby extending their lifespan. Cultivators, on the other hand, cultivated themselves. In fact, they were essentially the same. All they needed to do was gently press a button, and a person like Arvez, who was powerless and had crippled legs, could also possess great power. Dear people of planet Seldar, we've now occupied the spaceship. We'll bid farewell to this filthy garbage and have a new life. Those who haven't boarded the spaceship yet, please board the spaceship quickly. We have to leave soon, Arvez said. In order to deal with the two mecha pilots, the fire on planet Seldar had already spread. A place full of garbage couldn't survive at all. That was why Arvez had told the people of planet Seldar to hurry up and board the spaceship. Ning Shu felt that Arvez was quite kind at heart. He just didn't know if the spaceship could hold so many people. Hearing Arvez's words, the people of planet Seldar all cheered and hurried toward the spaceship. Ning Shu let out a long breath and shook his stiff arms. They had finally succeeded in occupying the spaceship. They were just lucky. Arvez said to Owen, "Go and help manage the people on the spaceship." Arvez looked at Vivian, who was still in a state of shock and hadn't come back to her senses yet. He said gently, "You go and rest too. Don't be afraid." "Oh, okay," Vivian immediately said. Then she looked at Arvez in admiration. "Arvez, you're so amazing." Chapter 1277. Vivian felt like she was in a dream. They were about to leave the struggling planet Seldar. Vivian looked at Arvez as if she was looking at an immortal. Arvez looked at Vivian and said gently, "Go get some rest." Vivian turned around and left the cockpit in a daze. Arvez turned around and looked at Ning Shu. Facing Arvez's gaze, Ning Shu felt a sense of trepidation. The atmosphere froze, but only she and Arvez were left in the cockpit. Ning Shu smiled. "I want to rest too." "Sister, I want to talk to you," Arvez said as he pressed a button. Ning Shu looked up and saw a cage coming down on her head. Ning Shu grabbed the cage, but a powerful electric current flowed into Ning Shu's body, paralyzing half of Ning Shu's body. Arvez looked at Ning Shu, who kept shaking her hands. "You're not quite the same as the sister I remember." Ning Shu grimaced and said, "You're not quite the same as the brother I remember either." "Are you sad, in pain, and resentful?" Arvez asked. Ning Shu sat cross-legged on the ground. Her body was in pain from the electric current. "Sister, are you in pain?" Arvez asked. Ning Shu nodded. "Blue, thin, and mushroom. But you don't look so pained and desperate," Arvez said. "Of course I'm in pain and despair from being treated like this by my brother, but as long as I think about how you'll lose someone like me, who treats you well and thinks about you in every way, I don't feel so bad." Her sincerity had been fed to a dog. Don't think about what you've lost. If you think about what the other party has lost, you won't feel so much pain. You treat me well. Arvez said indifferently. You abandoned me for your own future. This is how you treat me well. Ning Shu narrowed her eyes. Arvez, are you surprised? Ning Shu shook her head. I'm not surprised. I noticed the problem a long time ago. The Seldians will do anything for a mouthful of food. Raiding houses and robbing houses is a common occurrence. I usually go out, but you have trouble with your legs. You stay at home alone, but nothing has ever happened. No one has ever robbed our house. I'm afraid Owen is also one of your people. Ning Shu said calmly. Arve's blue eyes looked at Ning Shu. Since you know, why don't you say it? You have the strength to protect yourself. Why should I say that? It doesn't prevent me from taking care of you and thinking of you. But I won't treat you well in the future. There will be one less person in your life who will treat you well. Ning Shu massaged her numb hand. Moreover, Ning Shu suspected that March, who robbed her every time, was under Arve's orders. Ning Shu would not say it, and she would not treat Arvez well in the future. If they could leave this place successfully, they would go their separate ways. Don't you feel guilty at all? Arvez's blue eyes surged with undercurrents. You're different, and so am I. To be honest, we're different individuals. You're not my responsibility. I'm willing to take care of you because I love you. Even if I don't take care of you, you can't do anything to me, Ning Shu said bluntly. No one should be responsible. We're all independent individuals. Sophistry, your sophistry, Arvez said angrily. You dare to say that you didn't abandon me for vanity? Ning Shu waved her hand. Let's not talk about whether I abandoned you or not. Leaving at that time was the best choice. Besides, I wanted to leave not only to change my fate, but also to help you stand up and take you away from Selder in the future. But I'm dead. I was robbed of my mental strength and died, Ning Shu said. You're dead. Arvez was a little surprised. Ning Shu spread his hands. Look at you. Something must have happened to you after I left to change your fate. Maybe you left planet Selder. You're lucky, but I'm not. I don't care if you hate me or hate me, Ning Shu said. Ning Shu treated Arvez well, so he did not expect Arvez to repay him. Without expectations, there was nothing to be disappointed about. People were angry because they had given something, but the other party had not given anything in return. Therefore, they felt indignant, resentful, and pained. I treated him so well, so why did he treat me like this? That's why I was indignant and resentful. It's because you started over again. You knew that these people had bad intentions and that you would die too, so you brought me along this time, Ning Shu said. That's why you went through so much trouble to bring me along. If you can start over again, why can't I? It must be to change my past mistakes. You mean, if I start over again, I should still abandon you? Ning Shu looked at Arvez. Arvez was speechless. He suddenly felt that it was boring to be entangled with this question. Ning Shu looked at Arvez and asked, so why did you lock me up? You want to take revenge on me? You want to see me in pain and despair? You want to see me die? Eliza's wish was for her brother to stand up. It seemed that Arvez could stand up without her help and was doing better than her. Then, she still wanted to become a mecha pilot. However, she was now locked up by Arvez and did not know if she could survive. Ning Shu did not think that Arvez would let her go just because she treated him well in the past. He hated his sister for 2 lifetimes. His sister had died a long time ago and he still had a chance to start over again. Since he had been reborn, he should live a good life. Arvez felt wronged. Ning Shu also felt wronged. He had met his reborn brother. Arvez was asked by Ning Shu. He hated his sister for abandoning him, but after knowing that his sister had died after leaving Selder, Arves felt a little lost. The memories of 2 lifetimes made Arves' memory of his sister very blurry. He was only holding on with his resentment. Ning Shu felt very tired. He had used his spiritual power and fought the robots. His body could not take it anymore. He decided to just lie on the ground and rest. Having such a cruel brother was really an unbearable pain in his life. Ning Shu really wanted to grab Arve's hair and press him against the cage to electrocute him. Ning Shu felt that his body was still numb. Ning Shu forced his eyelids open to prevent Arves from electrocuting him again if he fell asleep. Ning Shu swore that if Arves dared to electrocute him, he would definitely play with him. He only said to leave planet Selder and let Arves stand up. He did not say that he had to treat Arves well. At most, his points would be lower. If he was disobedient, he should be beaten. Chapter 1278. Arves pressed a button, and the cage covering Ning Shu's body lifted up. Get up. Why are you still lying down? Arves said. Give me a hand, my legs are numb. Ning Shu extended her hand towards Arves. Arves put his hands on his legs. I'm lame. Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu got up from the ground and sat on the chair. He asked Arves, how did you leave Arves last time? Arves narrowed his eyes and said, my master took me away from Selda. My master was sent to Selda. Or rather, he was beaten half to death and thrown into the garbage dump. Then, he was sent to Selda by the spaceship along with the garbage. Ning Shu was speechless. That was fucking possible. This person should be the benefactor of Arve's life. Ning Shu slapped his thigh. His leg was numb and painful. If I had known this would happen, I would have waited for your master to come. Why didn't you say so? This way, they would have paid less for leaving. Ning Shu did not know this before. If he had known, he would not have gone for the spiritual power test this time. He would have waited for Arve's master to come with peace of mind. Master is fine now. You were gone for a long time. I don't know how long before Master came to Selda. Master is a mecha maker and also builds spaceships. Arve's face was full of gratitude and respect when he talked about his master. Ning Shu was quite surprised. A technological talent like this was a national treasure. To be sent to Selda was simply a waste of God's gift. Master used the garbage of planet Selda to make a signal transmitter. After a long time, someone came to pick him up. I followed him and left Selda to learn how to make mechas and spaceships, Arve said. Ning Shu nodded. Pretty good. What about you? Arves looked at Ning Shu. Me? Ning Shu sighed. I don't know where I was taken to. Someone used a secret technique to take away my spiritual power. I accidentally died. Even if I didn't die, I would have become a madman. Ning Shu talked about Eliza's encounter. You shouldn't have left in the first place, Alves said after a long while. At that time, it might have been the only chance in our lives for the people from planet Selder to write us a letter. Not everyone has a chance like you, Ning Shu said. I'm relieved to know that you're doing well. Eliza was probably relieved too. From now on, he would live for himself and become a powerful mecha operator. Actually, Alves, who had left Eliza, would have a better development. Arves, eat something. Vivian came in with clean food and water. She gave one to Arves and one to Ning Shu. Arves, I've never seen such an exquisite chef. The water is so clear. He even specially made this food. It's amazing. Vivian washed herself clean. Her wine-red hair looked very cute. Arves smiled gently. Have you eaten? Yes, I've eaten. Then, I'll send some over. Eliza, you eat too. I've never eaten such delicious food, Vivian said to Ning Shu. Ning Shu nodded. He picked up a spoon and ate. The taste was really good. It was very fragrant. Vivian, go and call your brother over, Arvez said. Okay. Vivian immediately left. Ning Shu looked at the obedient and moving Vivian and said, Vivian is a good girl. Arvez gave the steak in the box to Ning Shu. Vivian accompanied me through the most difficult period on planet Selder. After her brother died, we relied on each other. Then, Master came and took Vivian and me away. Ning Shu ate the steak. His mouth was full of fragrance. He nodded. It's quite good. Treat Vivian well in the future. Ning Shu said again, what about the people on planet Selder? There was no way to solve so many people. Where are we going next? I want to go to planet Omega. Master is there. Planet Omega is the most technologically advanced planet. Master is there. Basically, the most advanced technology in the galaxy came from there. Omega? This name was really straightforward. What about these people? Are they going to Omega too? Ning Shu drank the soup. He felt that he had not eaten so comfortably in a long time. Impossible. Planet Omega won't let them go. They'll be expelled, Arvez said. Ning Shu said, oh. Then, on the way to Omega, if we encounter any planets, we'll let some people go. Arvez nodded. That's what I think. What about the spaceship's energy? Is there enough energy to reach planet Omega? Ning Shu asked. Every time we arrive at a planet, I'll add energy. Do you have money? No. Ning Shu spread his hands. Then what do we do? Try to save energy and turn off some unnecessary functions, Arvez said. I'll listen to you, Ning Shu said. She did not know anything anyway. Driving a car was fine, but driving a spaceship. Ning Shu felt a little guilty. Ning Shu and Arvez chatted as they ate. They sorted out the things that were going to happen next. Arvez still went to look for his master to do his old job, making mechs and spaceships. Arvez said that there was a mech college on planet Omega. When the time came, he would use his connections to get Ning Shu to study in the mech college. Ning Shu looked at Arvez's blue eyes. Before this, he wanted to kill her, but now he was suddenly nice to her. We're both people who have started over. If we can live together, then let's live together, Arvez said. Ning Shu immediately smiled and said, that's good. We'll live well from now on. Arvez asked, do you know who those people who robbed you of your spiritual power are? Ning Shu shook her head. At that time, I was confused. I didn't even know who it was. In my confusion, my spiritual power was robbed, and then I died. If you know who the other party is, you can file a complaint. This kind of thing violates the Interstellar Treaty, Arvez said. Ning Shu said nonchalantly, to be able to do such a thing, there must be a big power behind them. Complaining is useless. Instead, it will expose us and implicate us. We're too weak now. It's not good that we're still alive. Arvez thought for a moment. You're right. Let's wait until we have some power. We can't just let it go. Ning Shu said, I want to rest. I'm a little tired. Today, he had overdrawn his spiritual power and fought. Ning Shu's body was very tired now. When he relaxed, he could not even lift his arm. Without a peerless martial art, his body would not be able to withstand even the slightest damage. Chapter 1279. Ning Shu got out of the cockpit, found a random room, and lay down on the bed. No matter what, he had to sleep first. Ning Shu felt that he hadn't had a good sleep since he came to this world. Planet Selder was extremely hot during the day and freezing at night. He couldn't sleep well at all. He was afraid that he would freeze to death if he fell asleep. He could sleep during the day, but he had to go out and look for trash. Otherwise, he wouldn't have anything to eat for the day, and if he didn't eat at night, he might really die. Lying on the comfortable and clean bed, Ning Shu felt that life was so blissful that he wanted to cry. It wasn't easy. Arves knocked on the door a few times, but she didn't wake Ning Shu up, so he let her be. Ning Shu didn't know how long he slept. When he woke up, his body was weak and sore. He didn't know if the air on the spaceship had spirit energy. Ning Shu sat cross-legged on the bed and started cultivating. There was very little spirit energy, but the air was much fresher than Selder's. It was probably able to produce oxygen and substances needed by the body. Although the spiritual qi was very little, Ning Shu still continued to cultivate. It was quite good to be able to relieve her tired body. Ning Shu didn't stop cultivating until Arves knocked on the door again. Ning Shu opened the door and saw Arves sitting in a brand new wheelchair. "Drink this." Arves handed Ning Shu a tube with some liquid inside. Ning Shu guessed, nutrient solution. Arves nodded. "Drink it. It can slightly improve your body." The people of planet Selder are all in a state of exhaustion. Ning Shu raised his head and gulped down the nutrient solution. The nutrient solution had a cool taste, a little like drinking mint water. However, after a while, his stomach felt warm. He felt a warmth spread from his stomach to his limbs and bones. He felt very comfortable, as if his body had come back to life. Some energy gathered in his dantian, forming a hair-sized force. The force began to slowly repair his body. This was good stuff. Ning Shu asked, "Have you drunk it?" Alvius said, "I've already drunk it. Vivian and the others have also drunk it." Ning Shu thought about it and said, "Are you going to take Vivian and Owen to Omega?" "I definitely have to bring Vivian along, and so do her brother. They've been with me for a long time," Alvius said. Ning Shu nodded. Life on planet Selder was difficult, and life outside of Selder was still difficult. Ning Shu realized that if she really went to planet Omega, she wouldn't even have the skills to make a living. "Don't tell me I still have to pick up trash." He even said that he wanted to become a noble and powerful mecha pilot. He couldn't even fill his stomach, let alone a mecha. Mechas were very expensive and rare. It required all kinds of rare metals, and it also required the help of a master mecha master. Just thinking about it made Ning Shu feel like he had nothing left to live for. His goal was as far away as the stars in the sky. He should set a small goal first, such as surviving first and finding a way to make a living. Ning Shu felt that his previous skills were completely useless in the galaxy. Being a lawyer, in a place where the strong were respected, the law was basically child's play. Washing clothes and cooking. They had robots and all kinds of advanced technology. They could solve everything. Ning Shu thought about it and still felt that he should set up a broken bowl and beg for food. He was completely useless, a complete piece of trash. "Are the people on planet Selder okay?" Ning Shu asked. With so many people mingling together, there would definitely be friction. Alvius said indifferently, "Someone caused trouble. Owen has already killed him. He killed him with a gun and turned him into a pile of dust. He's been well behaved for now. Killing the chicken to warn the monkey. Some people are greedy and want to seize the spaceship. What's the use of seizing it? They just want to take all the food on the spaceship for themselves. They're short-sighted." Alvius said indifferently, "Letting them on the spaceship is already very kind. If these people stayed on planet Selder, they would definitely die. Besides, planet Selder was already on fire." Ning Shu nodded. If he did not show some attitude, the spaceship would probably be in chaos. "How far is the next planet?" Ning Shu asked. "The artificial intelligence system said it's dozens of light years away," Alvius said. Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu counted with his fingers. The speed of light was about 300,000 kilometers per second. 1 hour was 300,000 kilometers, multiplied by 60, which was 1,800,000 kilometers. In 24 hours, it should be 1,800,000 kilometers. Multiplied by 24, it was 365 days a year. It was unimaginable. Ning Shu could no longer calculate it. Ning Shu did not even dare to think about such a distance. Ning Shu stopped calculating and asked directly, "Then when will we arrive?" "It will take some time." Alvius pushed the wheelchair out. Ning Shu said, "Go ahead and rest. It's still early before the next planet." Ning Shu closed the door and began to cultivate the peerless martial arts. His body was in a terrible condition. Cultivating the peerless martial arts could slowly heal his body and allow him to live a little longer. After cultivating, Ning Shu went to learn how to fly a spaceship from Alvius. If he could not win in the future, he could fly a spaceship and escape faster. As soon as Ning Shu entered the pilot's cabin, he saw Alvius and Vivian talking. Ning Shu retracted his foot. Would he disturb the couple? Eliza. Vivian waved at Ning Shu. Ning Shu walked over. What are you playing? Alvius is telling me a story, Vivian said. Vivian liked to listen to stories. Ning Shu asked, what is it about? It's the story of a powerful mecha operator falling in love with an ordinary woman. The process is thrilling, Vivian said with a longing expression. It's so beautiful. Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu looked at Alvius. He knew how to tell stories like this. Ning Shu looked at Vivian and asked, what kind of provocation? There are many bad guys who use ordinary women as bait in order to catch and kill a mecha operator. Are they trying to trick a mecha operator? How do you know? Alvius told you this story too? Vivian asked Ning Shu in surprise. Ning Shu was speechless. Logically speaking, a powerful mecha operator and an ordinary woman were a combination. The ordinary woman was in charge of being weak. In any case, the powerful mecha operator would be like a firefighter. That was how heroes saved beauties. That was how fairy tales were told. Snow White choked. When the prince sucked out the old phlegm in Snow White's throat, Snow White could breathe again. Anyway, the prince woke Snow White up by kissing her. Vivian could not control her surging maiden heart. Ning Shu asked, what's the ending? The bad guys killed the hostage and the ordinary woman died. Chapter 1280. Ning Shu said to Vivian, I think the woman should be dead. The strong mech pilot was so angry that he transformed into a scion to kill the bad guys. Then, he castrated himself in front of the woman's grave. He wanted to keep his chastity for the woman and never love again. Vivian's eyes were blank. What are you talking about? The mech pilot is so strong. How could he let the woman die? What is castrating himself? Ning Shu glanced at Arveza's indescribable place. Arvez calmly placed a book on his lap to cover that place. Ning Shu said directly, it's where you pee. Vivian made an, oh, sound. Ning Shu asked, why do women die? Why do men castrate themselves? The lives of ordinary people are very fragile. Since the man is a strong mech pilot, his enemies must not be weak. When a woman falls into the hands of these people, she will not have the power to protect herself. It is very likely that she will die. Heroes saving the damsel in distress. Just listen to it, Ning Shu said. Not only do women live in fear, but men are also tired. They have to save their own women all over the world. Ning Shu played with Vivian's wine-red hair. People must have the power to protect themselves. They must place their hopes of survival in the hands of the people who caught them and in the hands of the people who saved them. Vivian nodded as if she understood. Arvez said to Vivian, you can leave first. Oh, okay. Vivian immediately stood up and left. Arvez looked at Ning Shu and said, "It's just a story. It was originally meant to make Vivian happy. Now that you said it, the story is completely dark." Ning Shu shrugged and said apologetically, "I will definitely not interrupt next time. Besides, regret is more beautiful. Tragedy is more memorable. Next time, don't tell Vivian stories about princes and princesses. If you want to tell her about Liang Shanhua and Zhu Yingtai, Romeo and Juliet. They all died horrible deaths. I guarantee that Vivian will cry in front of you. Isn't it better if you pass her tissue then?" Ning Shu suggested to Arvez. Arvez changed the topic. "Why are you looking for me?" "I just want to learn how to fly a spaceship," Ning Shu said. "Piloting the spaceship is a very simple matter. Because of the AI, you can just give the order and set the destination. The spaceship can go by itself." It sounded simple and smart. Arvez pushed the wheelchair and introduced the operation of the spaceship to Ning Shu. He also told Ning Shu how to give orders. Ning Shu looked at Arvez's familiar expression and asked, "What did you learn from your master? How's it going?" Alvius said indifferently, "In the beginning, I didn't know anything. I still had to learn the most basic things, starting from reading and numbers. Fortunately, Master gave me the nutrient solution to slowly improve my body. Otherwise, I don't even know if I could make a mech or a spaceship before I die." This was already considered a relatively good life. Elsa's life had ended before it even started. Previously, he had struggled bitterly on planet Zelda and had died after leaving Zelda. Ning Shu listened as Arvez told him how to use the spaceship. In general, he did not need to do anything himself. The spaceship's AI could basically solve many problems. Ning Shu asked, "This spaceship should be very expensive, right?" Arvez said, "It's very expensive. The metal used to make the spaceship is very expensive. It has to be wear-resistant and heat-resistant. The spaceship has to be very fast, and the material has to be very good. The AI of the spaceship is also very expensive." Ning Shu nodded to show that he understood. "If we reach Omega and don't have money, can we sell the spaceship?" Arvez nodded. "Yes, but we have to sell it on the black market. After all, this is stolen goods." "That's good." Ning Shu wrote down everything he did not understand and showed it to Arvez. Arvez would answer Ning Shu's questions one by one. In addition to learning things, Ning Shu cultivated ultimate martial arts. He already had some strength in his body, but it was all used to repair his body. Every once in a while, Arvez would give Ning Shu a tube of nutrient solution to improve his body. These nutrient solutions were all from the spaceship. Arvez told Ning Shu that the spaceship was very expensive. It was so big and had a lot of nutrient solutions and food. There should be a powerful force behind it. Could it be someone from the military? Ning Shu recalled the military badge he had taken previously. The military badge doesn't mean anything. If it's a powerful interstellar hunter, the Interstellar Federation might also issue this thing and enjoy some rights, Arvez said. All kinds of forces are intertwined. We just have to be careful. The spaceship is very eye-catching. Okay. No matter where they were, it was very dangerous. After setting off from Zelda, they finally encountered a planet. From afar, this planet emitted a yellow halo. Arvez said, "The Zeldians on the spaceship doesn't have much energy left. There's a planet ahead. You need to get off there. If you don't want to get off the spaceship, you can stay on the spaceship. However, we can't guarantee that we can reach the next planet if we have enough energy." Arvez's voice spread to every corner of the spaceship. Many people wanted to get off the spaceship when they heard Arvez's words. After all, leaving Zelda and reaching another planet would not be worse than Zelda's. The spaceship reached the sky above the planet and lowered a huge ladder. Many people got off the spaceship, but some people did not. When no one got off the spaceship, it retracted its hooves and flew away in a flash. With fewer people, the spaceship consumed less energy. Arvez turned off some energy-wasting functions. It was already good enough to have enough energy to keep the spaceship moving. Arvez's expression was much more relaxed. There was not much food left on the spaceship. With so many people, the amount of food consumed every day was simply incalculable. Furthermore, they ate, drank, and defecated on the spaceship. The spaceship was very burdened. Arvez still wanted to rely on this spaceship to reach planet Omega and find his master. Ning Shu's daily routine was to cultivate and study. Arvez's daily routine was to tell Vivian stories and fly the spaceship. The order of the spaceship was maintained by Vivian's brother and the others. Arvez was probably touched by Ning Shu's words. When he told Vivian stories again, he would choose especially sad and tragic love stories. Tangled, sad, and extremely tangled stories. Vivian would be confused and moved to tears every time she heard it. Arvez silently handed her a tissue. Sometimes, when Ning Shu saw such a scene, she would even see Arvez smiling. Ning Shu was speechless. Chapter 1281. You're laughing like a dog in your heart when you see her crying like a dog. What kind of bad taste is this? Ning Shu expressed his disdain. Ning Shu felt that Arvez doted on Vivian. Arvez was a cold person to begin with, but he still told Vivian stories. There must be something going on between the two of them. Otherwise, why didn't Arvez tell her stories? One who is unaccountably solicitous is hiding evil intentions. He wondered if the two of them had a good relationship in his previous life. Ning Shu could not hold back his anger and gossip to Arvez. Were you with Vivian in your previous life? After leaving Zelda, I learned from my master. Vivian's health was not good and she passed away very early, Arvez said. People on planet Zelda generally did not live long, so Arvez was especially tolerant of Vivian in this life. So what was going on? The spaceship passed by some planets one after another, and people would disembark from the spaceship. He did not know how these people from planet Zelda were going to live on these planets. However, this was not something Ning Shu was worried about. At least the trash on these planets would be fresher. The people of planet Zelda did not have the skills to make a living. They hoped to leave Arvez, but if they really left planet Zelda, they would be very hesitant. Ning Shu felt very hesitant because he did not know what to do next to keep himself alive. In a place where technology was developed to the extreme, there was no need for manual labor. There were robots and all kinds of tools. There was no need to worry about them at all. Sigh, this was truly a hero with no place to display his skills. Arvez was much calmer because he had a plan in mind. However, Ning Shu did not know how to support himself. He even said that he wanted to go to the Mecha Academy to study. The tuition fees would probably make Ning Shu kneel at the entrance of the academy. Arvez saw that Ning Shu was very anxious and said that he would think of a way. Ning Shu could only sigh. Attention, attention, there is a large number of spaceships ahead. They are surrounding us, the electronically synthesized female voice said emotionlessly. Arvez frowned. We might have encountered interstellar pirates. Ning Shu thought, what? They were interstellar pirates, and they were about to surround them. Alveus sat in his wheelchair and rubbed his eyebrows. This spaceship is huge. I thought it was a fat sheep. Use the spaceship to attack these people, Ning Shu said. Attacking is something that consumes a lot of energy. Although the attack is powerful, the energy consumed cannot be underestimated. In this case, we may not have enough energy to reach planet Mega. This was really, but how are we going to get through this? Forget about going to Omega, we might even lose our lives, Ning Shu said. How much energy does the spaceship have left? Ning Shu asked Alvez. 80%, Alvez said. It feels like quite a lot, Ning Shu said. One attack may consume 5% of the energy, and the distance from here to Omega is very, very far. Arves sighed. I think this spaceship should still have energy reserves. Let's ask the original people on the spaceship, those who were locked up. Ning Shu asked Alves. Warning, warning, the spaceship is about to be surrounded, the synthetic female voice said. The other party has sent a message. Do you want to read it? Read it. A screen popped up. A tall man with a full beard appeared on the screen. His face was almost completely covered by his thick beard. A fierce aura came from the screen. Listen up, people on the other side. If you have anything valuable, hand it over. I'm the one who developed this interstellar line. I'm here to collect the toll. Otherwise. The burly man's face became extremely ferocious. Just wait for your death. Ning Shu let out a long sigh. There were robberies everywhere. The spaceship is about to be surrounded. Do you want to attack? Alveus looked at the screen and analyzed the other party's spaceship. Ning Shu shrugged his shoulders. Alveus, fighting is the only way. If they surround us, it'll be very dangerous. If they board our spaceship, we'll be at their mercy. We can only wait for death. We can only gamble now. Alveus took a deep breath and controlled the spaceship. The spaceship shook and was about to fly out of the other party's encirclement. Attack. Alveus's face was pale. Attack the bottom of the spaceship. Alveus was the person who built the spaceship. He knew where the spaceship's weakness was. The shaking became even more intense. It even fell headfirst. Ning Shu rubbed his forehead. He felt that there was a big bump. The spaceship shot a ray of light at the spaceship in front of it. This ray of light was white. The spaceship that was hit by the ray of light actually exploded with a bang. Heat waves rolled over. Bastard, you actually dared to attack first. If I don't teach you a lesson, you won't know what I, Ella, am capable of. In the screen that popped up, the man with the full beard was roaring angrily. His beard was shaking. Then, the spaceship shook violently. Something hit the spaceship. Alveus controlled the spaceship and avoided the attack. He didn't care about calculating the energy and ran forward with all his might. The spaceship behind them chased closely. No matter how the spaceship dodged, there would still be attacks that hit the spaceship. Ning Shu was so shaken that he wanted to vomit. Alveus fell from the wheelchair and lay on the ground. Ning Shu gritted his teeth and took over the control of the spaceship. Ning Shu released all his spiritual power and wrapped it around the spaceship. Once another attack came close, Ning Shu would be the first to know. A transparent spiritual power wrapped around the spaceship and spread in all directions. Ning Shu let the AI connect to his brain. The AI's scan, coupled with his spiritual power, allowed the AI to calculate more carefully and find the best way to avoid the attack. However, Ning Shu felt that his head was about to explode. It seemed that his head couldn't withstand the pressure. It was about to explode like a watermelon. Boss, the other party has a mecha operator. A person came to the side of the bearded boss. The bearded old man frowned. Fuck, looks like his spiritual power isn't weak. Boss, should we chase or not? The others asked the bearded man. Chase. Since they're afraid when they see us, it means that they're not that strong, the bearded man said. The spaceship behind them was still chasing closely. Ning Shu hugged his head. The veins on his forehead were popping out. He was in extreme pain. Ning Shu made up his mind. Under Alveus's pained gaze, he fired 5 attacks and accurately hit the spaceship behind them. The spaceships behind them exploded like bright flowers, and debris flew everywhere. Ning Shu couldn't take it anymore and retracted his spiritual power. Her nose was bleeding and she was dizzy. She fell to the ground with a thud and lost consciousness. Chapter 1282. Ning Shu fell to the ground weakly. The only thing he felt was that he was going to die. He felt like his head was about to explode. Could he be like Elsa, dying from the turbulence in his spiritual power? After some time, Ning Shu finally woke up. When he opened his eyes, his vision was blurry. Ning Shu almost thought that he was blind. He raised his hand and waved it in front of his face with difficulty. He shook his head. His head was about to explode. He felt like his brain was about to explode. "Eliza, you're finally awake." Vivian's voice rang in his ear. However, Ning Shu could barely hear her voice. Ning Shu was speechless. Not only was there a problem with his eyes, but there was also a problem with his ears. He had used too much spiritual power. "Eliza, wait for me. I'll call Arvez." Vivian hurried out of the room. Ning Shu heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed like he was safe now. However, the price was a little high. Ning Shu sat cross-legged and cultivated, hoping that his energy could improve his body that was on the verge of collapse. Ning Shu heard hurried footsteps and stopped. He vaguely saw Vivian pushing Arvez in. Arvez saw that Ning Shu was awake and heaved a sigh of relief. He asked, "Are you feeling unwell?" Ning Shu pricked up his ears. "Speak louder. I can't hear you." Arvez was stunned for a moment. Then, he said loudly, "Sister, are you okay?" "I'm fine," Ning Shu said loudly. Arvez took out the nutrient solution. "You've been sleeping for 2 or 3 days. Drink it." Ning Shu felt that his body had no energy left. He immediately took the nutrient solution and drank it. "How much energy do you have left?" Ning Shu asked. 50%, Arvez said. Seeing Ning Shu's puzzled expression, he raised his voice. 50%. I used up so much in one go. Ning Shu sighed. Fortunately, he had escaped. No matter what he did, there would be losses. Rest well, Arvez said loudly. Ning Shu nodded, and Vivian pushed Arvez out. Ning Shu sat cross-legged on the bed and began to cultivate. Her ears and eyes should be temporary and could be slowly repaired with spiritual energy. The spaceship arrived at another planet. Because of the dangerous incident that happened before, many people did not dare to stay on the spaceship. This time, he got off the spaceship directly. Since then, there weren't many people left on the spaceship. There were only a few people left on the spaceship. There weren't many people left from the spaceship that had been filled to the brim. The rest of the people were his own people. Arvez sent a tube of nutrient solution to Ning Shu the next day. Ning Shu was already short of energy, so it was even better now that he had the nutrient solution. Ning Shu accepted it without hesitation. If he didn't have spiritual energy, then he could just use energy. The effect would be the same. Arvez saw that Ning Shu's ears and eyes were still not good, so he comforted Ning Shu. When we reach Omega Planet, there will be artificial cochlear implants that are exactly the same as a human's. The effects will be the same too. You can change your eyes. Many people have replaced their bodies with machines. Ning Shu was speechless. It was really unimaginable. Ning Shu nodded. It's okay. Maybe they'll be fine after a while. It's already good enough to be able to leave planet Seld. It was already very lucky to be able to leave planet Seld alive. With the nutrient solution, Ning Shu's cultivation progress was slightly faster. However, Ning Shu used the spiritual energy to repair his body, eyes, and ears. He felt that it was because of the turbulence in his mental strength that his organs were suffering. Ning Shu's vision gradually became clear, and he didn't need to be shouted at to speak anymore. Although he was fine, Ning Shu still stayed in his room to cultivate. When he arrived at a new place, he had to have the ability to protect himself. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to survive. Ning Shu saw that Arvez was worried, so he told him that his eyes were fine. He didn't know how long they stayed on the spaceship, but they finally arrived at planet Omega before the energy was exhausted. Arvez stopped all the energy consumption of the spaceship. For example, he didn't even turn on the lights. The spaceship was basically dark, and all the energy was used to fly. Anyway, Ning Shu stayed in the room, and it was always dark. He didn't know how long he stayed on the spaceship, but when he thought of planet Seld again, it felt like a lifetime had passed. When the synthesized electronic female voice said calmly without any fluctuations, "We have arrived at planet Omega." The spaceship lit up for a long time, and Arvez, who had always been reserved, smiled. No matter what, after going through the arduous process of snatching the spaceship and the arduous interstellar journey, they had finally arrived at their destination. There was infinite joy in his heart. The vast starry sky looked beautiful, but it was full of all kinds of dangers. The journey was long, and they could die on the way at any time. Oh, planet Omega was a very prosperous planet. The technology here had been developed to the extreme, and it was still increasing. The powerful technology could destroy a planet. Cars were suspended in the air. There were all kinds of spaceships and cars, and clean and tidy streets. The people who came and went were all beautiful and confident. This planet was very big, who knew how many times bigger than planet Seld. The spaceship floated in the sky above planet Omega, and a message came immediately. "Sir or Madam, your spaceship is too big, and it is affecting the traffic order. Please don't enter the territory of planet Omega." Ning Shu shrugged and looked at Arvez. What do we do now? Anyway, she didn't understand Omega's situation. Everyone stared at Arvez. Arvez pressed a button, and a small spaceship was revealed from the bottom of the spaceship. "Let's take this." Alveus brought Ning Shu and a group of people. There was Vivian, Vivian's brother, and Ma Chi, his lackey. The spaceship was full. Ning Shu asked again, "Driving without a license, will we be expelled?" "Oh, Omega has a powerful brain system that covers the entire planet Omega. We are going to the black market and sell the spaceship. With the galactic coins, we can settle down on planet Omega. We also have to find a way to get a residence permit, or we will be expelled." Arvez explained. Ning Shu nodded and asked again, "If we park the large spaceship near planet Omega, will it be towed away?" "It's okay." Ning Shu breathed a sigh of relief. He really didn't understand the rules of this planet. The others listened to Ning Shu and Arvez talk, and they were all confused. Anyway, they didn't know anything, so they did whatever they were told to do. Arvez piloted the spaceship to the black market of planet Omega. Ning Shu realized another problem. What if it's a backstabbing? We can't beat them. Ning Shu asked a lot of questions, and he had to consider all aspects thoroughly. "So at this time, I need your help," Arvez said. "Me? If the other party has any strange movements, release your spiritual power to intimidate the other party." Oh, he wanted her to be a mascot. Chapter 1283. Arvez drove the spaceship to the black market. His face was calm as he negotiated prices with people like an old fox. Ning Shu sat next to Arvez and released his spiritual power. His spiritual power bent and formed various shapes. Previously, Ning Shu asked the silver-haired man for advice on how to use spiritual power to attack. Her 280 spiritual attribute points were not in vain. They were all accumulated with attribute points. Ning Shu was a little unfamiliar with using spiritual power at first. Now, he was much more proficient. Ning Shu was like an idiot who was playing with her spiritual power. Arvez was discussing business with someone. That person glanced at Ning Shu from time to time. Most of his attention was on Ning Shu. Arvez was anxious to get rid of the stolen goods. The other party was a little afraid of Ning Shu's strong spiritual power. Generally speaking, people with strong spiritual power could be mecha pilots. Even if these people were dressed so shabbily, they might just like this style. After bargaining, the price was set at a price that both parties were satisfied with. It was a deal. Arvez received a card and left with Ning Shu and the others. Then, Arvez went to the black market to find someone to apply for a residence permit for Planet Omega. Anyway, as long as there was money, everything could be solved. Ning Shu realized that she could not solve any of the problems that could be solved with money. Arvez handled all kinds of documents skillfully and took his time. This made Ning Shu believe that Arvez had really lived on Planet Omega. Otherwise, he would not be so familiar with this place. It seemed that Arvez had lived well in his previous life. It cost money to apply for a residence permit. Moreover, there were so many of them. Including Ning Shu, Vivian and her sister, and March's group of lackeys, there were 20 people. Arvez spent a lot of money because of this. After that, Arvez rented a house. The house was very big and basically had high-tech things. There were robots in the house and a network AI connected to the entire planet Omega. Oh my, how much money did this cost? This is the cheapest house. The facilities are not good, Arvez said. Ning Shu was speechless. When the others heard what Arvez said, they were all stunned. How could this be called bad facilities? From Planet Omega, everything was handled by Arvez. As expected, one had to be experienced and knowledgeable. Everyone else was dumbfounded. Arvez calmly took care of everything. This is the lowest standard house on Planet Omega, Arvez said. Next, let's plan. The price of the spaceship is not high, so we have to find a way to survive, Alveus said. Ning Shu shrugged. What do you think we can do? We can pick up trash, March said, raising his hand. Ning Shu rolled his eyes at him. Those who sweep and pick up trash on the streets are all robots. Ma Chi put down his hand, speechless for a long time. Vivian asked Arvez, what do you think we can do? Arvez thought for a while, but he couldn't think of what these people could do. The living room was silent. Arvez thought for a moment and said, why don't we play a game? Ning Shu, suspicious face. JPG. The others had no idea what the hell was going on. Let's play a holographic online game. The gold coins in the game can be exchanged for galactic coins according to a certain ratio. It's also a way to earn money, Arvez explained. Wow, that sounds cool, March immediately exclaimed. But this game is extremely realistic. The pain is real. If you face death in the game, the feeling of death is also realistic, Arvez said. Ning Shu exclaimed in his heart. In the world he experienced in the past, games were played on the keyboard. In the galactic era, games were holographic online games. Players could experience all kinds of game scenes. Vivian immediately said, then let's play a holographic online game. We feel bad that you're always the only one who's burdened us. Arvez looked at Vivian with a complicated expression. Alright, I'll order 5 game cabins for you first. You can take turns working. Arvez ordered 5 game cabins through the internet AI in the room. Soon, almost an hour later, the game cabins arrived. The speed of the delivery made Ning Shu exclaim in surprise. And the delivery was done by robots. It felt like on Planet Omega, humans were completely useless. Especially for people like them, who were illiterate and had no skills, they were complete and utter trash. The game cabin was a place for the body to lie down. There was also a helmet connected to the brain. A group of people surrounded the game cabin, their faces full of amazement. Ning Shu took the helmet and lay down. Let me try it first. When Ning Shu opened his eyes again, he found himself sitting in front of a small stream. The water in front of him gurgled and flowed. Everything was extremely real. Ning Shu reached out and touched the water. It felt cool and he could not help but take a sip. The cool water flowed down his throat to his stomach. It felt very comfortable. It felt really real. But Ning Shu was shot to death by a sudden arrow. He was not even in a hurry to dodge. He did not know which bastard shot him in the dark. Ning Shu jumped out of the game cabin and took off the helmet. Oh my god, it hurts. Fuck. It felt too real. The arrow pierced his skin and pierced his body. How is it? Vivian looked at Ning Shu expectantly. Ning Shu put down the helmet. It's okay. A group of people rushed to try the game. Ning Shu walked to Arvez and asked, "Why did you think of letting them play this to earn money?" "Actually, this is not what I thought." "It's Vivian," Arvez said. "In my previous life, Vivian, who came to planet Omega, was at a loss. At that time, she did not meet so many people. Later, Vivian found games on the internet and started playing holographic online games." Arvez said calmly, "In the game, Vivian met a man." When Ning Shu heard about a man, he immediately said, "Doesn't Vivian like you?" Based on Vivian's performance on planet Selder, Ning Shu felt that Vivian should like Arvez. In the game, the two of them had a good impression of each other. Later, Vivian died. I used Vivian's game account to tell the other party that Vivian died. He even came over, Arvez said. Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu could not help but pat Arvez on the shoulder. "I'm here to comfort you." Arvez glanced at Ning Shu. "Who told you that I like Vivian? If you don't like her, why are you trying to please her every day?" Ning Shu could not help but ask. "I just feel sorry for her," Arvez said. Ning Shu shrugged her shoulders. "Then you should feel sorry for me and your sister. Tell your sister a story too." Arvez pushed the wheelchair away and chose his room to sleep in. Chapter 1284. Ning Shu rolled his eyes. He thought the two of them were childhood sweethearts and innocent playmates. Ning Shu turned on the internet AI and realized that he could not read a single word. Alves clicked on a literacy tutorial and asked Ning Shu to learn from it. He also asked the others to learn from it. After all, one needed to be literate to play games. Ning Shu whispered to Alves, "Aren't you afraid that Vivian will meet that man in the game again?" "No, because the girl I like likes that man," Alves said. He seemed to have thought of something and his blue eyes glowed. Ning Shu was speechless. What a complicated and fucking relationship this was. In the end, as soon as she left planet Seld, the people she thought she could be with all met the person she was destined to be with. However, these were not things that Ning Shu should be worried about. She was learning to read every day and thinking about her future plans. To become a powerful mech pilot, she still had to go to the academy. Because she could read, Ning Shu searched for information about the Mech Pilot Academy on planet Omega on the Internet AI. She found out that the Mech Pilot Academy would be recruiting students soon. Ning Shu planned to give it a try. She was only short of money now. She had to think of a way to earn some money for her school fees. Alves was busy with his own things. He was busy writing and drawing every day. It was very complicated. Ning Shu did not understand what he was doing at all. There were specializations in the field. It was very difficult for Ning Shu, but it was nothing for Alves. Alves said that he wanted to use this design and the technological breakthrough that would appear later to open the door to building mechs and spaceships. Alves wanted his former master to take him in as a disciple. Ning Shu thought of something. "Didn't you say that your master was assassinated? You should be more careful in case your master is thrown somewhere." "I know." Alves nodded. Ning Shu returned to his room to cultivate. Oh, planet Omega did not have spirit energy, but there was another kind of energy. Ning Shu did not know what this energy was. It was different from spiritual energy. What was surprising was that peerless martial arts could absorb this kind of energy. After cultivating for a while, Ning Shu did not experience any side effects. His body had also become stronger, so he was able to cultivate with peace of mind. It seemed that spiritual energy was not the only energy in the world. When the energy was absorbed into his body, it formed chi energy in his dantian. It was about to take the form of chi. Ning Shu felt great. With a little ability to protect himself, Ning Shu had the confidence to go out. Ning Shu greeted Arvez and said that he wanted to take on some missions. Arvez did not approve of Ning Shu becoming an interstellar hunter. Those missions were very dangerous. Ning Shu said that he would find a simple mission to complete. Above them were all kinds of spaceships. Ning Shu arrived at the Interstellar Hunter Alliance according to the address given by the artificial intelligence system. Ning Shu walked into the alliance. There were robots doing all kinds of work inside. There were people coming and going. They were all here to accept missions and hand in missions for money. To survive in Omega, one had to earn money. This was the case no matter where one was. Ning Shu saw all kinds of missions. For example, hunting down space pirates. For example, someone wanted to go to a certain planet and recruit 2 strong mecha operators to accompany them. Most of the mission targets were mecha operators. There were also missions to salvage all kinds of cosmic dust and garbage. Ordinary people could also accept them, but the money was very little. Ning Shu browsed through the mission list and saw Planet Rado. It said that the devil vines were spreading again. Mecha operators needed to drive spaceships to wipe them out. The devil vines had very strong survivability. Even if the spaceships and mecha operators were destroyed, they would grow back soon. It was really a spring breeze. If they were not cleaned up regularly, the entire planet Rado would be covered. Ning Shu nodded to show that he understood. When she was a summoner, her summoned beasts were like grass. When they grew up, they would cover the sky and the sun. The most important thing was that they could absorb everything. Their vitality was strong and they were very difficult to deal with. Ning Shu thought about it and gave up on this mission. If he was entangled by the vines, he would become nourishment for the vines. That would be terrible. However, Ning Shu stared at the introduction of the devil vines. It said that the devil vines could speak. It was suspected to be a creature from another world. It didn't speak the interstellar language. If it could speak, then it already had its own spiritual intelligence. Ning Shu thought of Xiao Chao. Ning Shu decided to take a look. Ning Shu reached out and pressed the option to accept the mission on the screen. Even if it wasn't Xiao Chao, the other party had already developed spiritual intelligence and could communicate. It was a good skill to be able to communicate with creatures with spiritual intelligence. Ning Shu accepted the mission. Immediately, a robot brought Ning Shu to the designated position to wait. There were already a few people in the position. When they saw Ning Shu, they sized up Ning Shu. Ning Shu was short. Although he was already 13 years old, he had been malnourished since he was young. When he came to planet Omega, although there were nutrient solutions, he couldn't jump up immediately. These people didn't mock Ning Shu. After all, every mission had cannon fodder. Ning Shu sat down and waited. People joined the mission one after another. When everyone arrived, the robot brought Ning Shu and the other interstellar hunters onto the spaceship. There were already many people on the spaceship. So many people were needed to kill the demon-killing vines. Ning Shu wasn't conspicuous in the crowd. He sat cross-legged in a corner, either cultivating his spiritual power or cultivating his ultimate martial arts. In the eyes of others, Ning Shu was sleeping. The spaceship was very fast, but it took a lot of time to reach Planet Rado. Everyone, Planet Rado is just ahead, the leader said. Ning Shu looked at the results of the spaceship scan. A part of Planet Rado was covered by a dark thing. Although the black shadow didn't look big on the screen, it was compared to the entire Planet Rado. The area covered by the demon-killing vines was very large. Moreover, Places covered by the demon-killing vines couldn't survive at all. A large wave of spaceships headed in the direction of the demon-killing vines. As if sensing danger, the demon-killing vines stood up and covered the sun all day long. The spaceships released secret laser beams. When the vines were hit, they immediately turned to ashes. Some spaceships were entangled by the vines. The demon-killing vines waved the vines and smashed the spaceships to the ground. They swung around and threw the spaceships out. The people on the spaceships were unlucky. They were spinning around in the spaceship. They would probably vomit all over the ground. Some spaceships were pierced by the vines. The material used to make the spaceships was very strong, but it was pierced by the vines. Even if the spaceship's attacks could turn the demon-killing vines into ashes, the demon-killing vines would grow new vines. It was too difficult to deal with. Everyone's expression was very ugly. Every time they dealt with the demon-killing vines, they would lose a lot of financial and material resources. It wasn't that they were kind to Planet Rado, but that they had to control the demon-killing vines on Planet Rado. Chapter 1285. If it was allowed to spread, the entire galaxy would be covered by this thing. Moreover, wherever this thing went, the energy would be absorbed. One by one, the planets would become useless. Ning Shu looked at the demonic vine. If anyone could control this, it would become a powerful killing weapon. However, it felt like a scam to fight against this thing. You despicable humans. Ning Shu heard the demonic vine speak. It was a girl's cute voice. Ning Shu's heart skipped a beat. This voice sounded familiar. Captain, the demonic vine is going to get angry. A man frowned and said. Ning Shu immediately said to the captain, Captain, I'm willing to fight. The captain didn't even look at Ning Shu. He just waved his hand. Ning Shu took it as a yes. He got out of the spaceship and flew towards the demonic vine. Ning Shu released his spiritual power. Xiao Chao, Xiao Chao, Ning Shu didn't know if Xiao Chao still recognized him. He could only try to communicate with her. Who are you? A vine as thick as an arm wrapped around Ning Shu's waist and pulled Ning Shu over. Who are you? How do you know my name? Your soul is a little familiar. Xiao Chao was a little confused. You're a summoned beast. I'm a summoner. Do you remember? Ning Shu asked. I forgot a long time ago. Xiao Chao said bluntly and threw Ning Shu away. Ning Shu was speechless. When did the little loli become so stubborn? You really forgot? Ning Shu asked. The concentrated rays hit Xiao Chao's vines. The vines were annihilated into ashes. Ning Shu was a little anxious. Put it away first. Don't fight these things head-on. Hide first. I don't want you to care. Xiao Chao said to Ning Shu angrily. However, she was slowly retracting her vines. The people on the spaceship and the mecha operators floating around increased their attacks. The vines retracted even faster, revealing the ground covered by the vines. It had already become a desert. Come on, the vines are almost gone, the captain said excitedly. In the end, the vine shrunk into an inconspicuous blade of grass. Ning Shu grabbed the grass in his hand and put it into the cloth bag. Ning Shu returned to the ship. When the others saw that Ning Shu was still alive, they couldn't help but be surprised. The captain was counting the casualties and losses this time. Xiao Chao nudged the cloth bag. Ning Shu hurriedly pressed down on the bag and sat in the corner. He whispered, "Don't move." Xiao Chao, who was in the bag, became obedient. Ning Shu had always been inconspicuous and kept a low profile. Besides, no one had noticed her. When the spaceship arrived at the Interstellar Hunter Alliance, Ning Shu even received some money. This mission was relatively difficult. Those who could return alive would earn a lot of money. For those who died, double the commission would be compensated to the relatives of the deceased. In short, it wasn't easy to survive. Ning Shu brought Xiao Qiao back. He didn't dare to take Xiao Qiao out when she was outside. Other than at home, the entire planet of Omega was under surveillance. Only at home was there a little privacy. When Arves saw that Ning Shu had returned, she sighed in relief and asked, "What kind of mission did you take?" "Looking for a pet," Ning Shu said casually. Arves, "Oh, Omega's AI system can accurately locate an ant. Do I need you to look for a pet?" Ning Shu laughed. "I'm just teasing you. Look at how serious you are. Don't take on dangerous missions in the future. Many of them can't be returned," Arves said. Ning Shu nodded. "I know. I still want to become a mech master." She couldn't bear to die. "Aren't you a summoner?" Xiao Qiao, who was in the pocket, said disdainfully. Arves looked around. Ning Shu asked, "Did you hear anything just now?" Ning Shu shook his head calmly and dug his ears. "I didn't hear anything. I'm going to rest." Arves' expression was a little confused, but he didn't care. Ning Shu returned to his room, locked the door, and poured Xiao Qiao out of his pocket. Xiao Qiao turned into a human and still looked like a little loli. She was barefoot and had a bell anklet on her ankle. Xiao Qiao lifted her chin and looked at Ning Shu. She snorted. Ning Shu patted her head. "Why haven't you grown up?" Xiao Qiao looked at Ning Shu. "Who are you?" "I don't know you." Ning Shu thought, "Little temper, there's no spiritual energy in this godforsaken place. I used to grow, but now I've shrunk back." Xiao Qiao stared at Ning Shu. "How did you get here?" Ning Shu asked curiously. "I don't know. I passed through a gap and came here. Then I couldn't find the way back," Xiao Qiao said. "Gap between planes?" Ning Shu asked, "Where's your previous master?" "He's dead. You probably don't know how much time has passed. I've lived for hundreds of years." Xiao Qiao pouted. Ning Shu sighed. "You're still the same height even after hundreds of years. That's still better than you. You're short and ugly now." "Humph." Xiao Qiao lifted her chin. "Are you angry at me?" Ning Shu looked at Xiao Qiao. She was a cute little loli. The little loli looked at Ning Shu from the corner of her eyes. "Wasn't I obvious enough? I really want to slap you. What do you do all day?" The little loli asked curiously. "Running all over the world." Ning Shu nodded. "Running all over the world. This time it was in this plane. Next time, it would be in another plane." "Why?" the little loli asked Ning Shu. Ning Shu said, "To live." The little loli replied, "Oh, then I'll forgive you." "Oh, are you leaving again this time?" "Just like when I used your master's body, I'm leaving this body." Ning Shu said directly. The little loli had lived for hundreds of years. Some things could be understood with a little thought. The little loli pouted. "Really, it's better if we didn't meet." Ning Shu felt that the little loli he met this time was obviously more temperamental than the little loli he met before. The little loli he met before was so innocent. Now, the little loli was two-faced. "Then take me with you. I don't want to stay in this godforsaken place. There's no spiritual energy here." The little loli Ning Shu said. "I don't think I can take you with me." Ning Shu said. If she had a little bit of strength, she could take Xiao Qiao with her. The little loli said, "Oh." She looked very wronged. This is the interstellar plane. It's normal that there's no spiritual energy here. You should be able to absorb energy if you cultivate peerless martial arts. You should know about peerless martial arts. Xiao Qiao immediately said, "Of course I know, but this kind of energy conflicts with the energy in my body. That's why I chose to absorb other kinds of energy." Why didn't her cultivation conflict? Was it because there was no spiritual energy in her body? There was only one kind of energy in her body. Ning Shu spread his hands helplessly. Then there's nothing I can do. Ning Shu gave the nutrient solution to Xiao Qiao. Xiao Qiao tasted it and shook her head. It doesn't taste good. Ning Shu rolled his eyes. Drink it. Chapter 1286. Xiao Qiao smacked her lips and drank the nutrient solution. She gradually adapted to the taste of the nutrient solution and her expression was not so strange anymore. After this, you will live with me. Don't show your true form. If you haven't learned the planet, just pretend to be mute and nod or shake your head. Xiao Qiao sucked on the straw and nodded obediently. Ning Shu led Xiao Qiao out of the room. Arves, who was drinking water, choked and stared straight at Xiao Qiao. Xiao Qiao made a face at Arves. Pft, cough cough. Arves coughed and pointed at Xiao Qiao. Sister, where did this child come from? I picked her up. Arves said, I didn't see this child before. I just went out and picked her up. Arves said helplessly, don't pick up everything. If this child is a wanted criminal, she will be expelled if she doesn't have a qualified Omega residence certificate. So, I'm taking her to get a residence certificate now. Ning Shu nodded and said. Sister, my point is not the residence certificate. The point is not to bring back people you don't know. Arv said. Ning Shu nodded, I know. This child is harmless. I can guarantee it. Xiao Qiao, heh. Ning Shu looked at her from the corner of his eyes. What was she laughing about? Yes, you are awesome. How much financial and material resources are wasted every year to deal with you? You are the cockroach that cannot be killed in the interstellar. Ning Shu held Xiao Cao's hand and went out. Xiao Qiao turned back and stuck her tongue out at Arves. Arves was a person who had lived 2 lifetimes. How could he be calculative with a little girl? If Arves knew that this little girl had lived for hundreds of years, he wouldn't think like this. He was the most troublesome demon vine in the Interstellar Alliance. He would probably only shout at her, get lost. Ning Shu gave Xiao Qiao a Omega residence certificate. The money he got from the previous missions was basically gone. Why was it so expensive to get a certificate? And it was temporary. He had to get a new one after a while. Only people with permanent residency were counted as real residents of Omega. Also, people with permanent residency on Omega enjoyed a lot of rights. They could get money just sitting at home. However, they had to have made significant contributions to Planet Omega. Her school fees were gone again. Ning Shu's mood was very low, but Xiao Qiao was looking around with interest. All of this made Xiao Qiao feel strange. They could fly in the sky without the need for a flying summoned beast, and their speed was so fast. It was these things that shot out that destroyed her vines. Ning Shu still planned to accept more missions. After all, he needed to earn money. Not only did he need to pay for his school fees, he also needed to build a mech that was suitable for him. They didn't have enough money. Moreover, it was especially hard to earn money on planet Mega. Mecha masters earned the most money. At the very least, they were still researchers like Arves. When Vivian saw Xiao Qiao, she almost held her face in her hands and screamed, so cute. He's so similar to the people in the game. Vivian pinched Xiao Cao's face, but Xiao Qiao remained expressionless. You're too cute. Vivian pinched Xiao Cao's face and then pinched her hands. Xiao Qiao directly walked away and sat down with Ning Shu. Ning Shu asked Vivian, how's your game going? I'm not earning much money. Vivian said. Take it slow. It was good enough to earn money. With so many people playing the game, the combined money was not little. It was enough to buy nutrient fluids. Also, they didn't need to drink nutrient fluids every day. Sister, It's the school enrollment soon. Don't miss it. Arvez said. Vivian immediately said, we'll all go and cheer you on then. No need. I'll be nervous if there are too many people. Ning Shu went out to accept a mission. This time, it was a relatively simple mission. Xiao Chao followed beside Ning Shu and asked, do you need my help? No need. There's no spiritual energy here. The spiritual energy in your body is depleted. I can solve it myself. Ning Shu refused. Ning Shu realized that in the universe, there were not only vines that covered the sky like Xiao Chao, but also insects that ate everything. Just like locusts, they could eat planets. There was nothing that they couldn't eat. The universe was really dangerous. Not only did he have to kill Xiao Chao, but he also had to kill these insects. Moreover, these things without intelligence reproduced at a terrifying speed. Even Xiao Chao had to retreat in front of them. Ning Shu completed the mission, got some money, and went home with Xiao Chao. However, as soon as he got home, Ning Shu saw a person lying in the living room who had been beaten until his parents couldn't recognize him. A few people were cleaning his wounds. Arvez looked a little anxious. This is your master? Ning Shu asked Arvez. Arvez nodded. There was a period of time today when the interstellar network was disconnected. It was probably to deal with Master. When the interstellar network was disconnected, Planet Omega's artificial intelligence temporarily lost its monitoring of the entire planet. Is that so? Is your master seriously injured? He'll be fine. Arvez said with certainty. Even so, his eyes were anxious. Arvez's master was wearing a white coat with dust on his clothes. He didn't know who he had offended to be dealt with like this. This person woke up after being unconscious for a day. He rubbed his head and saw a young man in a wheelchair guarding the bed. Master, you're awake. Arvez blurted out. The man was stunned for a moment. Arvez immediately said, are you feeling better? Arvez took a nutrient solution for the man. I'm Jeffrey. Little guy, what's your name? Jeffrey asked Arvez. My name is Arvez. Arvez, thank you for saving me. Jeffrey drank the nutrient solution. Jeffrey had a black and white stubble. He was probably not young, but his body was very strong and his back was straight. Ning Shu saw that Arvez and his master were getting along very well. The two of them had endless topics to talk about. Moreover, they were all very profound discussions. Ning Shu listened for a while and was completely dumbfounded. There was no need to talk about the others. Only the two of them were high. It was as if they were good friends despite the difference in age. Xiao Chao was slowly learning the interstellar language and could basically understand it. However, when she heard the conversation between the two of them, she wanted to reach out her vines and whip them to death. But occasionally, Ning Shu could still understand some of the topics. For example, using powerful strength to break the space barrier and enter other worlds. They had already confirmed that this world was not only this world. There were other worlds and even more vast worlds. With their technology, they could occupy many worlds. Ning Shu's scalp tingled. Using violence and powerful strength to break the space barrier. It was not that the space could not be broken. Once it exceeded the capacity of the space, it would shatter like glass. Chapter 1287. Oh, Omega's technology was the most powerful and cutting-edge in this galaxy. In this vast galaxy, some planets were still ignorant and undeveloped. Some planets were already like Omega, with advanced civilizations, or even super-civilizations. These people were still not satisfied. The galaxy could no longer trap them. They wanted to break the barrier, enter another world, and invade another world. Damn it, if the barrier of the plane was broken, if the plane could not repair itself, the entire plane might have problems. Ning Shu stared straight at the two people who were chatting passionately. Not only would this harm one plane, but other planes that were close to this plane would also be affected. If this plane was affected, the next plane would be in trouble. It was like pushing a Nomi bone, which would cause a series of collapses, forming a chain reaction. The plane nurtured all things, and humans were the leader of all things. They were loved by fate, but they were the ones who wantonly harmed the plane. Humans' love, hatred, resentment, and hatred eroded the plane. Now, they wanted to break the plane directly. They wanted to use the power they had researched to break the plane that protected them. Ning Shu interrupted, "What if it's broken? What happens after it's broken?" Arvez looked at Ning Shu with some surprise. She usually did not listen to his conversation with Jeffrey. "Have you ever thought about what would happen if the barrier is broken and the entire world is broken?" Ning Shu asked. This plane was very big, and there were many planets. If something went wrong, all the planets would be unprotected, and everyone would be doomed. It was unknown just how many living beings there were. Even if the plane did not explode, there would be cracks, and the cracks would get bigger and bigger. "It won't," Jeffrey said. Ning Shu rolled his eyes. "If you say it won't, then it won't. If the barrier doesn't work, why else would it exist? Without the barrier, we can still pass through each other." "How interesting." "Sister, don't talk to Mr. Jeffrey like that," Arvez said. Ning Shu shrugged. "I'm just saying. You guys go on." Ning Shu turned and went out. Xiao Chao followed behind Ning Shu and asked, "Are you unhappy?" "Xiao Chao, I've worked hard to do all this to keep myself alive, to eliminate resentment, and to repair the plane. My existence is to patch things up, or to catch the parasites and blood-sucking worms that have latched onto the world." Xiao Chao listened attentively and said, "Their behavior makes you uncomfortable. They're spinning a cocoon around themselves. They think they have the ability and want to rob more. In the end, they'll harm others and themselves," Ning Shu said. Ning Shu thought again, if the world he built, if the technology inside had developed to the point where it could threaten the world. She would definitely erase these things. Anything that threatened the world, Ning Shu would destroy. After seeing all this, Ning Shu had a new understanding of the world she had constructed. How to protect the world. "Xiao Chao." Ning Shu said, "So you've suffered so much. It's not hard. Just like how you train hard to become strong, I'm doing all these things to strengthen myself," Ning Shu said. He had the powerful ability to crush worldly forces. He had the firm belief to always believe in his ID. He had a healthy body that was immune to poison. Xiao Chao held Ning Shu's hand. "It'll get better in the future." Xiao Chao was barefoot, and the bell on her ankle jingled. "You're not angry anymore?" Ning Shu looked at Xiao Chao. Xiao Chao rolled her eyes and shook off Ning Shu's hand. "I'm angry." Xiao Chao walked in front. Her porcelain white feet stepped on the ground, and the bell on her ankle jingled as she walked. Ning Shu walked behind her with his hands behind his back and looked at her. She was such a cute child. Ning Shu went to take another mission. When he came back, he saw many spaceships floating above his house. And there were people surrounding the house. Could it be that Master Alvius's enemy had found them? This was quite a big scene. When they saw Ning Shu, many people surrounded Ning Shu and Xiao Chao with guns. Ning Shu entered the house and asked Alvius, "What's wrong?" "Leave quickly," Alvius said anxiously to Ning Shu. Why did he let her go? Wasn't he here to catch Jeffrey? "The spaceship hijacking has been exposed," Alvius said softly. Ning Shu, huh? How were we discovered? Ning Shu asked in surprise. They said that the spaceship was from planet Omega. They said that it was a spaceship that was searching for energy sources everywhere, but it was hijacked. "They've found us now," Alvius said. Planet Omega's spaceship. In other words, Planet Omega was looking for people with strong mental strength. No wonder they were discovered when they came to someone else's house to sell stolen goods. Ning Shu couldn't express his feelings. There were spaceships and armed forces outside. How should they go? What about you? Ning Shu asked, are you involved? Mr. Jeffrey said that I'm his student, so I'm fine for now, Alvius said. Ning Shu nodded. It was good to have one less person involved in this matter. Sister, don't resist. If you resist, we'll deal with it on the spot. I'll find a way to save you, Alvius said. Ning Shu nodded. Protect yourself. Ning Shu was held at gunpoint and escorted onto the spaceship. Xiao Chao followed behind Ning Shu and was escorted onto the spaceship. As soon as they entered the spaceship, Ning Shu was locked in a cage. Xiao Chao leaned on Ning Shu. What do we do now? Ning Shu touched the cage. It was electrified. He instantly felt his scalp tingle. Did you kill the mecha operator on the spaceship? A man in a military uniform with several military badges on his chest walked to the cage. Ning Shu shook his head. It wasn't me. Then who was it? Your brother. The man in the military uniform asked. Even if Dr. Jeffrey said that your brother is his student, we can still investigate your relationship with him. Ning Shu remained silent. Ning Shu was brought to a sealed space. This space was very small and could only fit 1 or 2 people. Ning Shu smashed the surrounding walls. He did not know what material they were made of. With Ning Shu's current strength, he could not even make a dent in the wall. There was no trace at all. Xiao Chao sat on the ground and watched Ning Shu struggle. She asked, aren't they going to give us nutrient fluids? It's not like they invited us here for a meal. Ning Shu said, we have to think of a way. Fuck, I'm going to be robbed of my spiritual power like Eliza. Oh, the people from Planet Mega's military did not capture anyone else because the others did not have spiritual power. She did. Her brother was protected by Jeffrey, so she might be facing the same situation as Eliza. She might be robbed of her spiritual power. The door opened with a click. 2 people came in and escorted Ning Shu out. Chapter 1288. Ning Shu was taken to a room. Sister, Arvez shouted at Ning Shu through the glass. Ning Shu sat across from Arvez. For some reason, Ning Shu felt like he was visiting a prisoner. What on earth had she done wrong? Arvez said, Sister, don't worry, I will save you. Ning Shu said calmly, I don't think there's much hope. Can you help me make a mech? This matter was delayed again and again. He didn't know what he needed to do to become a mech pilot. His fate was full of misfortune. The mech isn't important now. Let's get out of here first, Arvez said with a frown. Ning Shu knew very well that the hope of getting out was not high, even with Jeffrey. Jeffrey could only protect Arvez at most, and it was because Arvez had no spiritual power. The military gave Jeffrey face. Help me make a mech, Ning Shu said. Okay. Arvez said helplessly, I didn't expect the spaceship to be from Omega. If that's the case, we won't come to Omega. The people above Omega must have some plan. I didn't have access to the confidential documents above in my previous life, so I don't know the specifics, Arvez said. Ning Shu said, I'll think of a way. You have to protect yourself first. Because it was time to talk, Ning Shu couldn't talk to Arvez anymore and was taken back to the confinement room. I thought you weren't coming back, Xiao Chao said. Ning Shu sat on the ground and leaned against Xiao Chao. He leaned close to Xiao Cao's ear and whispered, why don't we do something big? What's big? Xiao Cao's eyes lit up. How about destroying a super civilization? Ning Shu said. Xiao Chao shook her head. Their weapons are too powerful. Since you were able to come here through the dimensional rift, there must be a problem with the plane you originally lived in. Generally speaking, a world shouldn't have such a rift. If they can really invade other worlds, the plane you originally lived in will also be invaded. Do you think the flesh and blood of a summoner and a summoned beast can withstand such powerful weapons? Ning Shu's expression froze. If you can escape, then leave quickly. You shouldn't have followed me here. Ning Shu stretched out his finger and poked Xiao Cao's fair and tender face. Xiao Cao sighed like an old man. What should we do now? Why didn't you give him some nutrient solution? Even if you want him to die, you should at least give him a meal. They were clearly discussing a very serious matter, so there was no need to keep thinking about the nutrient solution. The confinement room was as bright as day. It was unknown how long they had been in there. Give me a definite answer if you want to die or live. Xiao Cao leaned against Ning Shu's body and fell into a deep sleep. With a click, the door opened. Ning Shu gave Xiao Cao a push. Xiao Cao opened her eyes groggily and stood up. Ning Shu and Xiao Cao's eyes were covered. They didn't know where they were being brought to. Ning Shu didn't resist. He wanted to see where they were taking him. They didn't know how long they had been walking before they finally stopped. The black cloth covering their eyes was also removed. Ning Shu used his hand to block the strong light. He realized that he was standing in front of a huge object. This object looked like a building. It was squarish. Xiao Cao asked, "What the hell is this?" "Who should I ask?" Ning Shu looked around and saw that many people were being escorted here. It seemed that the people of planet Omega were really looking for people with strong spiritual power all over the galaxy. What was the use of depriving them of their spiritual power? Ning Shu looked at the bulky and huge thing in front of him. This thing couldn't be planet Omega's artificial intelligence, right? Go in. Ning Shu was pushed by someone and walked into the strange building. As soon as he walked in, Ning Shu felt that he had come to an extreme sci-fi scene. There were all kinds of novel things inside. Many researchers were coming and going. "Take them to the other side," a man in a white coat said. Ning Shu looked around. What kind of place was this? If this was the most important thing on planet Omega, would it cause chaos if this thing was destroyed? Would they be able to escape? Go in. A soldier pushed a person into a door. It was a bit like an inspection cabin door. After a while, Ning Shu heard an extremely painful roar coming from inside. The roar was getting weaker and weaker. When the door was opened, the man was bleeding from all 7 orifices. His face was extremely distorted. His chest was rising and falling slightly. It seemed that he was breathing more than he was exhaling. He didn't have long to live. Was this what it meant to be deprived of one's spiritual power? The man's miserable condition caused a commotion. The people who were brought here were very scared. They wanted to escape, which caused a commotion. However, the doors were all closed. This was a sealed space. There were many guards around. Anyone who wanted to escape was thrown in first. Painful screams and moans came one after another. Just like that, the spiritual power was violently deprived. It felt like a hammer was smashing an egg. Not many people were lucky enough to escape. It was simply purgatory on Earth. Ning Shu's face was a little pale. Xiao Cao hid behind Ning Shu and pulled the corner of Ning Shu's clothes. What are they trying to do? I don't know. It must be for some purpose. Where was the deprived spiritual power sent to? Ning Shu looked around. Ning Shu said to Xiao Cao, "Maybe, planet Omega's artificial intelligence is alive." Impossible. I don't feel any signs of life. Xiao Cao immediately shook her head and said. Maybe it's another form of life. Ning Shu shrugged. It was like a ghost. Although it didn't have a body, it was still a form of life. Ning Shu had just observed it. Some of the equipment was very old, and this huge artificial intelligence didn't seem to have existed for long. As for how long, Ning Shu didn't know. For a plane to become a high-level plane, it took a very, very long time. Maybe this artificial intelligence was something left behind by the previous super-civilization. The previous civilization was destroyed, and some of the things left behind were picked up by planet Omega. Omega's technology was at the forefront of the entire galaxy. Many breakthroughs in science came from planet Omega. What are you talking about? Go in. Ning Shu was pushed, and he was pushed in. Ning Shu turned to look at the person who pushed him and said expressionlessly, "Who are you pushing? Why are you touching me?" The person who pushed Ning Shu was stunned. He had never seen someone so capable. He was about to die, but he was still so capable. Ha! The other person sneered. What are you laughing at? You're so weird. Xiao Chao, slap him, Ning Shu said to Xiao Chao. Okay. Xiao Chao immediately reached out, jumped up and slapped the man's face. Chapter 1289. Ning Shu, Use your hands. Whatever, use vines or use your hands. What are you doing? Stop. Xiao Chao instantly turned into a huge vine, and the door opened with a huge force. Countless vines surrounded the surroundings. The vines seemed to want to entangle the entire artificial intelligence system. The artificial intelligence system sounded an urgent alarm. The vines were still entangled, and beautiful flowers bloomed on the vines. Pollen fluttered in the air, and everything that was touched by the pollen was planted with spores, and grass grew on them. I'm going to destroy the artificial intelligence system and the information, Ning Shu said to Xiao Chao. If you really succeed, Xiao Chao, you will have merit, and your cultivation path will be smoother in the future. Ning Shu picked up the gun on the ground and prepared to find the artificial intelligence system center. The vines continued to extend, and the artificial intelligence system was tightly entangled by the vines from the inside out. Ning Shu shuttled through the artificial intelligence building full of vines. Ning Shu didn't know where the artificial intelligence system's main body was. Because something happened to the artificial intelligence system, planet Omega fell into an abnormal situation. The spaceships in the sky collided with each other, and the interstellar network was chaotic. All the robots were in a state of paralysis. Countless spaceships faced the artificial intelligence system, and the chief in the spaceship slammed the table angrily. Why did the demonic vine come to this place? The people in military uniforms lowered their heads in silence. Why don't we attack? One of them said carefully. Attack my ass, that's the foundation of planet Omega. The artificial intelligence system is still there, and there are so many researchers inside. Planet Omega can't afford to lose them. The chief slapped him in the face. Chief, we've already gone to save them, the man who was slapped in the ear said pitifully. Didn't we already ask the Interstellar Hunter Alliance to eliminate the demonic vine? Now that the demonic vine has come here, who can explain it to me? Everyone present lowered their heads, and no one knew that the demonic vine would come here. Go in and find the chip, the artificial intelligence chip. The chief took a deep breath. Forget about invading other planets, it was very likely that planet Omega's technology would stop advancing. Soon, many people entered the artificial intelligence system, but they were all entangled by the vines. Although he had powerful weapons in his hands, even if the vines were annihilated, there would be new ones coming out. The vines shrank with all their might, and the entire AI building creaked and shook, as if it was groaning in pain. It was simply a disaster. Attack the vines in a small area, the bureau chief ordered. Ning Shu was holding a gun and wearing a soldier's uniform. No matter what he saw, he destroyed everything. Some of the important research materials were destroyed by Ning Shu. When the weak humans had the power to kill the gods, they had nothing to fear. No one could stop them from attacking. Mr. Jeffrey. Ning Shu met an acquaintance. Mr. Jeffrey was carrying a black suitcase. He didn't expect to meet Alvius's teacher here. Jeffrey was a little surprised. Let's take advantage of the chaos and leave. Ning Shu stared at the black box in Jeffrey's hand and asked with a smile, Mr. Jeffrey, what is that in your hand? Jeffrey said casually, it's just some of my research results. Ning Shu approached Jeffrey. Jeffrey took 2 steps back and put the suitcase behind him. Ning Shu was very fast and snatched Jeffrey's suitcase. Give me back my suitcase, Jeffrey said hurriedly. Ning Shu ran away with the suitcase. Jeffrey quickly chased after Ning Shu. There were vines everywhere. Some of the vines were as thick as a person's body. They were entangled everywhere, making it difficult for people to move. Ning Shu, on the other hand, was very relaxed. He jumped over all kinds of vines and disappeared in a flash. Ning Shu stopped and found that he couldn't open the suitcase at all. Ning Shu shot with the laser gun. She was going to destroy it anyway. It didn't matter if the thing was broken. Under the ravages of the light, the suitcase opened. Inside was a black square. It was pitch black. He didn't know what it was. The cube wasn't big. It was only the size of a Rubik's cube, but it was a little heavy. Ning Shu looked around and couldn't find a place to open it. It felt like the Rubik's cube was a whole piece. Ning Shu curled his lips. He put it on the ground and shot it with the laser gun, but there was no reaction. What the hell was this? There was nothing in this world that couldn't be destroyed. It just hadn't reached the critical point. Seeing the laser gun's light, he couldn't do anything about it. Give this to me. 2333's voice suddenly appeared in Ning Shu's mind. Aren't you sleeping? You're awake. Ning Shu asked. What you have in your hand is an intelligent life made by humans. It's still asleep and hasn't woken up. 2333 explained. This thing should be the condensation of all the knowledge and technology of the previous super civilization. These people need psychic power. They probably want to awaken the intelligent life. Ning Shu suddenly felt that his hand was heavy. Such a small thing could hold so many things. Life. Technology created life. What do you want to do with this? Ning Shu asked. It was better to destroy this thing. If it didn't wake up, the people of planet Mega could use the knowledge carried by the intelligent life to conquer other planes. I'll keep it for you. Maybe it'll be useful in the future. 2333 said, this kind of intelligent life has powerful operating functions. If it wakes up, its computing power is indescribable. You're not thinking of devouring this, are you? Ning Shu asked with some suspicion. No, I don't have any thoughts about it. With your current ability, you can't do anything about it. Of course, I can't do anything about it either. Okay. The black cube in Ning Shu's hand disappeared. How did the previous super civilization disappear? Ning Shu asked. Once something develops to the point of threatening the plane and crosses the boundary, the people above will wipe it out. If it crosses the boundary again, it will be wiped out again. The cycle repeats. Ning Shu was speechless. He felt an inexplicable sympathy. It was like harvesting leeks. As soon as they grew, they were cut off again. Don't underestimate the research ability of humans and their tireless spirit. Even more so, don't underestimate the ambition of humans, 2333 said. Humans did not have strong bodies. They only had soft skin and easily broken internal organs. A little injury could cause them to lose their lives. However, they had become the masters of the plane. They had the power to kill gods. The intelligent brain building started to shake. Ning Shu found Xiao Chao. Let's run. As soon as Xiao Chao exerted her strength, the entire building collapsed with a loud crash. Ning Shu held Xiao Chao's hand and ran with all his might. Quickly go in and find the thing. We must find it. When the bureau chief saw the intelligent brain building collapse, his face turned green with anger. The entire planet Mega was in chaos. The magnetic field was chaotic. The robots were either paralyzed or rioting. Their programming was in chaos. Ning Shu ran to his house. "Eliza, Eliza." Ma Chi waved his hand and shouted at Ning Shu. Ning Shu quickly ran over. Chapter 1290. Ning Shu looked at March. It seemed like he was waiting for him. March said, "Let's go first. Arvez is waiting for us." March led the way to the black market. "We're here." March pointed at the spaceship. Arvez sat in a wheelchair. Ning Shu was a little touched. He held Xiao Cao's hand and boarded the spaceship. Arvez piloted the spaceship and left the chaotic planet Omega. Ning Shu sat on the ground and hammered his weak legs. He saw Xiao Cao's pale face and sweaty face. Her hair was wet and stuck to her face. Ning Shu brushed the hair on her face. "Thank you." "Don't thank me. I did it for myself." Xiao Cao leaned against Ning Shu. Ning Shu asked Arvez, "Is there any nutrient solution?" Arvez asked Vivian to get 2 tubes of nutrient solution. Ning Shu gave the nutrient solution to Xiao Cao. Xiao Cao fell asleep leaning against Ning Shu after drinking it. Ning Shu looked at Arvez. "Why do you want to leave this place?" When the chaos broke out, Arvez made a prompt decision to leave planet Omega. Vivian said. Arvez frowned. "Mr. Jeffrey seems to know why we need to capture people with psychic power. Jeffrey said that planet Omega will usher in a new era. These people were there to revive the intelligent life. When the intelligent life woke up, planet Omega's technological power would increase exponentially. Why do you want to leave Omega?" Ning Shu asked. "I don't know how long this chaos will last. It's better to leave. We don't have enough power to deal with such chaos." Arvez said. Mr. Jeffrey could protect him for a while, but he couldn't protect him forever. Ning Shu didn't tell Arvez that she stole the intelligent life from his teacher. "It's good to leave. Our identities aren't suitable for living in Omega. The regional discrimination is too serious." Ning Shu said. "We don't know how long it will take for us to settle down." Alveus sighed. Ning Shu said, "I think we should find a planet a little further away from Omega to live." "Yes." Arves nodded and looked at the group of people following him. "I've implicated all of you to follow me everywhere." Vivian's brother, Owen, shook his head. "I was supposed to die in the garbage dump, but now I can eat my fill and drink the nutrient solution. It's enough." Ning Shu looked at Arvez. "But the girl you like?" "She's Mr. Jeffrey's daughter, but she doesn't like me," Alves said. Ning Shu comforted Arvez. "My poor brother, what a sin." Arvez was speechless. "I can't give her the life she wants, and my legs." Alves touched his legs. Living was a difficult thing, and love was a luxury. "It's okay, brother. You'll meet a woman who loves and tolerates you. Trust me," Ning Shu patted his chest and said. Arvez's blue eyes shone. "Maybe, let's leave it to fate." Arvez, who had lived for 2 lifetimes, was more open-minded. He probably had a crush on someone in his previous life, but it didn't work out. In this life, he had a sister to take care of and a group of friends to rely on, so he took it lightly. Ning Shu felt that people who had been reborn should be like this. They should avoid some mistakes and work hard to live a better life. Only then would they not be treated well by God. Arvez prepared a lot of food and fuel on the spaceship. It was not like the last time, where he was worried about not having enough energy. As for how the spaceship came about, it was said that it was snatched when Omega was in chaos. No one knew how it was snatched. Ning Shu and Xiao Cao slept for a long time because they were too tired. When Ning Shu woke up, he felt much better. Xiao Cao's face was glowing. Seeing that Ning Shu had woken up, she said, I feel stronger than before. I feel like I've entered a new realm. My body is also much lighter. That's a good thing, Ning Shu said. Xiao Cao gave Ning Shu a tube of nutrient solution and drank it with a straw. Where are we going next? Xiao Cao asked. I'm not building it. Let's leave it to fate. Ning Shu shrugged. Mecha, Mecha. Why was her destiny to become a mecha pilot so bumpy? Ning Shu asked Arvez, is my mecha done? Arvez was speechless. Where's the metal and money? A mecha can't be completed in a day. We can't earn the money for a piece of metal in our lifetime. Why are you so persistent? Arvez was speechless. Ning Shu said weakly, you don't know my determination. Mecha is a little out of our reach. Sister, it's okay not to become a mecha pilot. No, it's your sister who wants to become a mecha pilot. Sister, I plan to find a more remote planet. It's undeveloped. It's fine as long as it's habitable, Arvez said. There were countless planets in the galaxy. Not every planet was recorded. Some planets were suitable for habitation while others were not. Ning Shu thought, no, I don't want to, living on a remote planet, mecha would be an unattainable dream. No, I don't want to. My mission, what if Eliza was a stubborn girl and judged that she had failed the mission? Arvez saw Ning Shu's hopeless expression and asked, is it that hard to accept? Instead of living on a planet like Omega, it's better to find a remote planet that belongs to us, Arvez said. Ning Shu nodded. You're right. I'll listen to you. You're willing to leave the girl you like. I have no objections. She doesn't care about me at all. It's the same to her whether I'm there or not. I'll just disturb her if I'm by her side, Arvez said calmly. Ning Shu slapped his mouth. I'm sorry. I always say things that make you sad. Ning Shu put down his mecha dream. He could not ignore the lives of so many people because of himself. The spaceship flew in the vast universe. Every time they encountered a planet, Arvez would check if the planet was suitable for habitation. Anyway, they did not know how far away they were from Omega. The chaos on Omega was no longer their problem. After losing such an important thing, the people on Omega were probably busy looking for it. The days on the spaceship were the most peaceful and peaceful. Ning Shu was relaxed. When he had nothing to do, he would braid Xiao Cao's hair. He grabbed Xiao Cao's hair. Xiao Cao grimaced in pain and did not let Ning Shu play with her hair. Ning Shu liked Vivian's wine-red hair and went to do Vivian's hair. As a result, Xiao Cao and Vivian did not want to see Ning Shu. Ning Shu would style himself the next day and show them what fashion was. Chapter 1291. Arvez found a planet with forests, water, and air. After the spaceship scan, the planet was suitable for living and the soil was suitable for planting. Arvez chose this planet. When Ning Shu heard about planting, she did not feel too good. Was she going to plant again? She was going to become a mech pilot. Other people could produce princes and princesses from farming, but she was really farming, and receiving a bad review. Arvez landed the spaceship slowly on the planet. There were no traces of technology on this planet. Everything was in a primitive state with dense vegetation. Arvez pushed the wheelchair out of the spaceship and looked around. This will be where we live in the future. Actually, the spaceship doesn't have much energy left. It will be difficult to find other planets. I think it's good here, Vivian said. The others nodded. At least there was a lot of clean water. People from Selder had very low standards. It was fine as long as there was water and food. It's better here than Planet Omega, March said. It was more comfortable here than Planet Omega. Well, we'll settle down on this planet. There are seeds on the spaceship, Arvez said. There are tools like knives and saws. It seemed that Arves had already planned this. Ning Shu said, "There's no way to make spaceships and mechas here. Your career and work. I was doing this until I died in my previous life. Let's do it in this life," Arves said. "And I realized that you have an accident constitution. Something will always happen when I'm with you." Ning Shu laughed, showing her teeth. Arve's blue eyes twinkled and she laughed with Ning Shu. Ning Shu took a deep breath. The air was very fresh. "We're going to build a house now." Ning Shu carried the axe and went to chop trees. Everyone had something to do. Arves sat in the wheelchair and read. Under the shade of the trees, light and shadow were modeled. After everyone's work, they managed to build a place that could shelter them from the wind and rain. Of course, the spaceship could also accommodate people. Ning Shu did not let Arves live in a house because Arves could not move freely. What if some wild beast came out? There was not much nutrient solution on the spaceship. Everyone could only look for food in the jungle. With the spaceship's analysis, as long as the fruit was not poisonous, everything could be eaten. However, Xiao Qiao was robbed. Xiao Cao's nutrient solution was snatched by a child who was about the same age as her. Xiao Qiao was stunned for a moment when she was suddenly robbed. Then, she became furious. There wasn't much nutrient solution left, so Xiao Qiao drank it sparingly. Nutrient solution was more nutritious than ordinary things. Xiao Qiao used to dislike it, but now she only drank this. Xiao Qiao didn't even think before she violently beat the other party up. She beat the other party so badly that the other party cried loudly. The crying of the child attracted the attention of the people in the jungle. These savages were no match for Xiao Qiao, but Xiao Qiao remembered Ning Shu's words and didn't reveal her vines. These savages did not wear any clothes. Their bodies were covered by large leaves, and their faces were painted with mottled colors. These people looked at Xiao Qiao and pointed at her from time to time as they chattered. Xiao Qiao fiercely snatched the nutrient solution from the child's hand and found that the nutrient solution had been secretly drunk by the child. She pointed at the child and said, "Just you wait." Xiao Qiao turned around and complained to Ning Shu and Arves. When Ning Shu heard this, he said to Arves, "Living in harmony with the natives is a problem." When Ning Shu stepped onto this planet, he found that someone was watching them. They were careful and didn't dare to get close. Arves closed the book, raised his head, and said, "They are still afraid of us and don't dare to attack us. After a while, it's hard to say. We can try to communicate with them. If necessary, we have to show them a strong hand," Arves said. Ning Shu felt that someone was spying on them. Their eyes were filled with confusion and fear. Ning Shu glanced at Xiao Qiao and said, "How did it get robbed? How useless. That little brat suddenly appeared." "I didn't notice," Xiao Qiao said. Arves heard Xiao Qiao calling the other party a little brat. She was a little girl, but she still called the other party a little brat. In the future, don't go out with the nutrient solution for no reason. Why haven't we been robbed? Ning Shu patted Xiao Cao's head and said, "He must have seen you drink it, so he robbed you." Xiao Qiao pouted. Ning Shu carried the hoe and went to open up the wasteland. Arves only meant to plant enough food. There was no need to open up the wasteland and destroy the environment. Arves said to let the future generations reproduce on this planet. Ning Shu also thought so. If the strides were too big, the planet would be under a lot of pressure. Every day, they lived a life of working at sunrise and resting at sunset. They were also spied on. After a long time, these natives knew that these people wouldn't hurt them and became bolder. At the same time, they were very curious about what Ning Shu and the others were doing. Some people had crooked thoughts and wanted to rob them. Arves took a gun and fired at a tree. The huge tree fell with a creak. Instantly, these natives were scared out of their wits and only dared to watch from afar. Ning Shu and a group of people planted the seeds. As the crops weren't mature yet, they ate very sparingly. They usually looked for wild fruits. If there were wild animals, they would eat some meat. Arves would occasionally make some simple tools in the spaceship's laboratory. It was too easy for someone who could make spaceships to pretend to be simple tools. And Xiao Chao had an extra follower. It was the child who stole her nutrient solution last time. This child was trying to please Xiao Chao. Every time Xiao Chao tried to chase him away, she couldn't. From time to time, he would give Xiao Chao a wild fruit, wild egg, or even wildflowers. Xiao Chao accepted the gift without hesitation, but she still ignored him. Basically, Xiao Chao came home every day with something in her hands. Ning Shu said, "You should return some gifts." That child was probably instructed by the adults. Then what should I give him? Xiao Chao said, "I haven't settled the score with him for stealing my nutrient solution last time. Be more generous. You've lived for a few hundred years. Why are you being so calculative with a child? I'm also a child. A few hundred years old and still a child. I used to be a little taller than I am now. After I left, you didn't grow much. Isn't there a lot of spiritual energy in the icy jade lake? Didn't you absorb it?" Ning Shu asked. There was a spiritual vein under the icy jade lake, and the spiritual energy was very abundant. "I absorbed it, but I didn't grow," Xiao Chao said gloomily. "You must have reached a bottleneck. After the lightning tribulation last time, you didn't undergo another tribulation." "Another tribulation?" Xiao Chao asked. This should be," Ning Shu said uncertainly, "people also have all kinds of tribulations in their cultivation. You should be the same." "Oh." Xiao Cao's expression showed that she didn't understand. The next day, Xiao Chao gave the child a hairband to tie his hair. Chapter 1292. Xiao Chao looked at his messy hair, which was dirty and long, and gave him a hairband that she didn't want. The child was very happy to receive Xiao Cao's gift and said something that Xiao Chao couldn't understand. The child took the hairband and put it in his mouth, thinking that Xiao Chao gave it to him to eat. Xiao Chao was speechless. Xiao Chao rolled her eyes and took the hairband. She messed up the child's hair and tied it up with the hairband. The child stroked his hair with a surprised expression on his face. He mumbled to Xiao Chao for a while before he turned around and disappeared into the forest. From then on, the child always used all kinds of things to exchange with Xiao Chao. Xiao Chao gave him things that she didn't want. Gradually, the two sides started to interact and exchange things. The two sides temporarily lived in harmony and were still trying to figure out each other's bottom line. It was the harvest season for the wheat. The wheat field was glistening yellow and emitted the smell of ripe wheat. Ning Shu and Vivian were busy collecting the wheat. They used the most primitive method, shedding the wheat in handfuls. These aboriginals saw something magical and thought of ways to gather some things to exchange for wheat with Ning Shu and the others. Arves gave them a bag. As for the things that the natives gave, Arves didn't like any of them, but he took them. Even if they weren't worth much, he still wanted to exchange them. Otherwise, these people would get used to free things in the future. When it was time to plant wheat, these people learned from Ning Shu. Gradually, they took root on this planet and adapted to life on this planet. Ning Shu looked at the hoe and looked into the distance. He looked at the endless mountains and forests. Damn, what about her dream of being a mecha pilot? She couldn't become a mecha pilot if she stayed here. Mission completed. Do you want to leave the mission world? 2333's voice sounded. Ning Shu said, I want to ask you for a favor. Send Xiao Chao back to her original world. She has no spiritual energy in this world. Sooner or later, she will use up all the spiritual energy in her body, Ning Shu said. I don't have any energy, 2333 said. Ning Shu was speechless. What are your conditions? You're so annoying. Why did we even talk about conditions before? I'll help you, 2333 said. Ning Shu, holy shit, Lolo was possessed. Why are you being so coquettish? Ning Shu could no longer control the goosebumps all over his body. He couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. Speak properly. Did you become a sissy after devouring the push-down system? Ning Shu asked. Ning Shu waved at Xiao Qiao, who was not far away. Xiao Qiao walked over to Ning Shu with her hands behind her back. Ning Shu said to Xiao Qiao, I'm leaving. Xiao Qiao squinted at Ning Shu, are you going to run away again? The time I can stay in each world is limited. When the time is up, I will leave. I will send you back to your previous world. This world has too little spiritual energy. You won't be able to endure it. Ning Shu said. Xiao Qiao said, then take me with you. Ning Shu shook his head, I'm a person who can't be sure of my life. Even if I take you with me, I won't be with you for a lot of time. What will you do? There are thousands of worlds. Cultivate well. In the future, you will be able to enter other worlds and see a lot. It's not good for you to follow me. Ning Shu said. Ning Shu couldn't care less about Xiao Qiao. Why should he let Xiao Qiao follow him and imprison her? Also, he couldn't take Xiao Qiao with him on a mission. If he wasn't careful, he and Xiao Qiao would die. Xiao Qiao nodded, I understand. In the future, don't jump into any cracks. If we encounter a space storm, don't think about surviving. Ning Shu said. Xiao Qiao pulled Ning Shu's sleeve, then when can we meet? If it's fated, we will naturally meet. When you become strong and can break through the restrictions of the world, you will see a lot of new things in the future. Ning Shu patted Xiao Cao's head. The path of cultivation is extremely difficult. Don't kill easily, but don't let others bully you. Otherwise, what's the point of cultivating so hard? Xiao Qiao worked hard to climb up so that she could control her own destiny and not let others trample on her and humiliate her. Xiao Qiao nodded and leaned against Ning Shu 2333, help send her back to the summoner's world that she used to stay in, Ning Shu said. Xiao Cao's figure disappeared. Ning Shu took the hoe and continued to weed. The weeds were tenacious. With Xiao Cao's strength, ordinary people couldn't do anything to her. After a while, 2333's voice sounded in Ning Shu's mind, I've sent her back. Do you want to leave the mission world now? Ning Shu sighed and nodded. Let's go. There was another mission that had not been completed. No, there were two. The other mission was to make Arves stand up. Damn, he almost forgot about that. Ning Shu ran home with the hoe and said to Arves who was reading, Brother, do you want to stand up? Arves closed the book, why are you suddenly talking about this? I'm used to being in a wheelchair. It doesn't matter if I can't stand up. You can get yourself 2 legs, Ning Shu said. Arves said, maybe on planet Omega, I'll get a pair of fake legs. Here, no one cares about my legs. It doesn't matter if I stay in a wheelchair. Ning Shu couldn't help but ask, is it good to pee in a wheelchair? Arves. Is it good to go to the toilet? Ning Shu said. She had never worried about Arves' excretion. Arves. It's okay, Arves said. If you have the conditions, get yourself a pair of legs, Ning Shu said. Ning Shu thought for a moment and asked Arves to make silver needles for her. They were very thin needles. Arves made silver needles for Ning Shu on the spaceship. Ning Shu lifted Arves' leg and slowly inserted the silver needles into the acupuncture points on Arves' leg. Ning Shu asked Arves, do you feel anything? Arves shook her head, no. Ning Shu. I'll find time to make fake legs myself. You don't have to prick here and there. It's useless, Arves said. I saw on the internet that this is an ancient medical skill, Ning Shu said. Arvez opened the book and let Ning Shu insert the needles into her leg. Her expression was normal. Ning Shu looked at her and knew that Arvez's leg really did not feel anything. This was really, then, when are you going to get yourself a pair of legs? Ning Shu asked. Arvez flipped through the book and said indifferently, we'll talk about it when there's time. You only know how to read porn books all day. Don't you know how to do your own leg? Ning Shu rolled his eyes. Arvez asked without looking up, what's a porn book? Well, it's a beautiful fairy tale. Arvez said, oh. Ning Shu returned to his room, lay on the bed, and said, let's go. Ning Shu felt dizzy and returned to the system space. Chapter 1293. Ning Shu opened his eyes and saw that the space system had been repaired. There were no longer as many cracks as before. The black hole from the pearl was still there, but it had become smaller. The fusion would be completed soon. It seemed that pushing down the system had given 2333 a lot of energy. Ning Shu praised 2333. Not bad, it's done so quickly. 2333 just grunted. Ning Shu sat cross-legged on the ground and began to absorb the soul power. When he woke up, Ning Shu touched his soul. It had become like jelly. In the past, the wind could blow it away, but now it had turned from gas to solid, so it would not dissipate so easily. Ning Shu opened the stats panel. Because of the energy, the stats panel was not as transparent as before. Number, 2333. Name, Ning Shu, Advanced Mission Taker, Age, 27 points, 67 million soul, 340 health points, 131 wisdom, 384 charm, 50 luck, 249 mental power, 280 faith, 22515 physical strength, 412 aptitude, 159 merit, 13870 skills, 5th ring shooting technique, intermediate combat technique, exceptional martial arts, intermediate poison technique, beginner business management knowledge, beginner code programming, beginner lawyer skills, beginner ghost catching skills. Honorary titles, Goddess of War, Selfless. Ancestor items, Calm Halo, Calming Pill, Faith Halo, Amulet 4, Upgraded Amulet 2 Halo, Mother of the World, Queen's Blessing, Sister Model Worker, Chin Shi's Blessing, Leader Halo, Grass Blessing, Best Friend for a Lifetime, Miao Miao Miao's Blessing, Life-Saving Hand, Zhu Susunyang's Blessing, Founding Female General, Chen Ermiai's Blessing, Beauty-in-Law, Chen Ning's Blessing, Cross-Race Communication, Bai San Yang's Blessing. Note, can only communicate within a certain range of intelligence. Eliza's Wish, leave planet Selder and let her brother stand up and live to become a mecha pilot. Mission completion, 80. Reward, 5 million points, 50 attribute points, 2,000 faith, and 3,000 merit points. Ning Shu looked and felt that the reward this time was not bad. He had received 3,000 merit points. He didn't know how much merit Xiao Qiao had obtained. After all, it was all thanks to her efforts. He hoped that Xiao Cao's strength would increase. Ning Shu tapped on the attribute panel and distributed the attribute points. Age, 27 points, 670 000/5 soul value, 340 HP, 131 wisdom, 38410 charm, 50 luck, 24910 spiritual power, 28010 faith, 225152000 combat power, 41210 potential, 15910 merit, 138703000 skills, 5th ring shooting technique, intermediate combat technique, exceptional martial arts proficiency, intermediate poison technique, beginner business management knowledge, beginner code programming, beginner lawyer skills, beginner ghost catching skills. Honorary titles, Goddess of War, Selfless ancestor items, Calm Aura, Calming Pill, Faith Aura, Amulet 4, Upgraded Amulet 2. Aura, Mother of the World, Queen's Blessing, Sister Model Worker, Chen-Shi's Blessing, Leader Aura, Grass Blessing, Best Friend for a Lifetime, Miao Miao Miao's Blessing, Life-Saving Hand, Zhu Susunyang's Blessing, Founding Female General, Chen Ermiai's Blessing, Lawful Beauty, Chen Ning's Blessing, Transcending Race Communication, by San Yang's Blessing. Ning Shu looked at the attribute panel. Her faith was increasing. Perhaps she would soon meet the requirements for a super mission. Ning Shu saw a black Rubik's Cube on the bookshelf. This was the intelligent life. It felt really magical. It was as if the computer and phone he used had a life of its own and its own consciousness. He couldn't imagine how terrifying it would be if the phone he used could think. Of course, it would also be more convenient and intelligent. Ning Shu put the Rubik's Cube on the bookshelf. It looked pretty good as decoration. Are the functions fixed? Ning Shu asked 2333. 2333 said, it's almost fixed. Ning Shu heaved a sigh of relief. It was good that it was fixed. Sometimes, Ning Shu was really afraid that 2333 would not wake up. Now, 2333 could talk to him. It was good that he was alive and kicking. It was also good to be a mascot. It was better than nothing. Ning Shu clicked on the screen and looked at Eliza's situation when she returned. However, Ning Shu's expression became a little strange. That was because he saw that Vivian had several husbands. Even Eliza had a few husbands. Because there were not many girls in the team, in order to reproduce, they could only do this. This way, they could reproduce as much as possible. This was definitely a matriarchal society. Now that there were few people, the girls had the responsibility of reproducing the population, so their status was more noble. Perhaps when there were more people, a patriarchal society would appear. Occasionally, they would marry the natives. Ning Shu saw the smile on Eliza's face. Eliza had a pair of blue eyes like Alveus. When she smiled, it was like the sparkling sea under the sun. Being alive was a kind of happiness. Being able to have a place for people to live was happiness. Although she did not become a mecha pilot, Eliza was still happy to be alive. Ning Shu turned off the screen and took the Law Sea Stone into the virtual space to look for the silver-haired man. He also went to the restaurant to eat something. After returning from the interstellar dimension, Ning Shu felt like he was going crazy with hunger. On planet Seldar, he ate moldy and rotten food every day. On planet Omega, he drank clear nutrient solutions every day. With a sense of weightlessness, Ning Shu stood on an antique street. Ning Shu first went to the restaurant to order something to eat. After eating, he slowly went to the consultation room. As soon as he walked into the consultation room, Ning Shu closed his eyes and used all his lung capacity to absorb the fragrance in the room. When he inhaled it into his soul, he felt a cooling sensation flow into his soul. Even the dust was washed away. Ning Shu opened his eyes in intoxication and met two pairs of eyes. Ning Shu almost suffocated. Ning Shu stared at the silver-haired man and a lunatic who was dressed in black all over. Every time he saw them, they were dressed in this way. Ning Shu could not help but want to complain. They were dressed as if they were going to a funeral. The atmosphere was a little awkward. Ning Shu's heart was pounding. He saw the two of them sitting together in the same room. He felt that the atmosphere was especially, it was really not that Ning Shu looked down on people, but these two people. The silver-haired man had long silver hair. The school doctor was dressed in abstinent black. Both of them had long legs and long arms. He could imagine the two of them hugging each other. Ning Shu's heart was pounding. The uncle got up from his chair and said coldly to the silver-haired man, "Get rid of those who are useless and unqualified. Why do we still need these people every time?" The silver-haired man nodded and grunted. The uncle turned and left. The breeze blew at the corner of his black coat. When he reached the door, he stopped and looked down at Ning Shu. Ning Shu thought, why are you looking at me? I'm useless. I'm qualified. What kind of trouble were these two trying to cause? Ning Shu instinctively felt that something was wrong. Had he heard some secret? Chapter 1294. The school doctor brushed past Ning Shu. His cold aura made Ning Shu's soul feel as if it was frozen. Her entire body felt like it was covered in ice. It was very uncomfortable. When would she stop being controlled by others? Just passing by made her soul unable to bear it. Ning Shu sat opposite the silver-haired man and asked, "What were you talking about? Is this your last question?" The silver-haired man said. "Then I won't ask." Ning Shu shook his head. "No, you still owe me 2 questions. How did it become the last question?" 3 free questions, now there's only 1 left. The silver-haired man looked at Ning Shu. "Are you trying to blackmail me?" Ning Shu was speechless. "I want to blackmail you. What do you want to ask this time?" Ning Shu touched the sea rule stone. He wanted to ask what it was for. But he didn't want to use it that way. The most important thing for her now was to build her own world and control her own destiny. Even if the sea rule stone was important, with her current strength, it was useless to know. Ning Shu laughed. "I haven't seen you in a long time, so I came to visit you." 300,000 points, the silver-haired man said. "I've been charging you since you entered the room, and you've inhaled so much agarwood." Ning Shu thought, that's not how you do business. How can you do this? Even if you can't do business, you can still be benevolent. The silver-haired man said directly, "That's how I do business." Ning Shu gave him 300,000 points and got out of the consultation room. It was better not to come to such a blood-sucking place. It was too dark. Willful and black-hearted. Ning Shu walked around, bought some gadgets, and returned to the system space. 2333 Ning Shu said, "Think about it. How many times have you been killed? The higher-ups have started to fire people." Ning Shu was speechless. It was a bolt from the blue. Was she going to lose her job? "What do you mean by firing people? Have you received the news?" Ning Shu asked. "What are the specific standards?" "I received a message from the mainframe." 2333 said, "The mission enforcer and the system are finished together." Together. Ning Shu heaved a sigh of relief. "Even if I die, at least I'll have a scapegoat." 2333 sneered, "It's a complete obliteration, and the soul power will become the reward for the other mission takers." Ning Shu was so scared that he almost wet his pants. "What are the standards?" "Erased more than 7 times, mission completion rate more than 60%. Both the mission taker and the system were erased. The mission taker's poor performance was due to the system's poor guidance. The system erased both of them." "Ning Shu, have you ever guided me?" "You've never guided it. Is the amulet useless?" Ning Shu asked. The amulet was bought with merit points. The amulet can save your life temporarily, but if the mission is not good enough, and there are always people who travel between worlds, these people will be erased. So, you have to calculate, how many times have you been erased? 2333 said. "It feels good to protect myself, but we'll settle the score together." 2333 said, "Damn it, I've finally recovered." Ning Shu was also anxious. Why is it so difficult? This isn't a game, you can restart. If you're erased, it's gone. Don't think you can escape with the amulet. 2333 said anxiously. How many times have you been erased? I remember you were erased a few times. I'm counting. Ning Shu counted with his fingers. She shouldn't have been erased 7 times. Once, twice, thrice. It should be 4 times, at most 4 times. Ning Shu said with certainty. Once in the school world, once in the demon world, and once in the lunatic world. The mission completion rate for these 2 times was 80%. The previous times were almost 100%. Ning Shu let out a long sigh. I think I should be able to pass. Then I'll submit the data, are you sure? 2333 asked. Shouldn't you pay attention to this kind of thing? Why do you have to remove the mission takers? Ning Shu asked. 2333 said, if one person can't complete the mission, then another will take over. Then a world can be traveled multiple times. When a mission taker enters a world, when traveling, it will also cause damage to the world. If a mission taker can't complete the mission well, then another mission taker will enter the world to complete the same mission, causing damage to the world again. Mission takers who don't pass will only be erased. 2333 explained. Why not just kill them directly? Why not give them a chance to reincarnate? That was too inhumane. 2333 sighed and said, once you step on this path, there is no turning back. There are too many ways to go, no one will take it seriously. Anyway, if you fail, you have the amulet. Even if you are fired, you can still reincarnate. There is no such good thing in the world. Ning Shu, we can only grit our teeth and charge forward. Ning Shu took a deep breath. There was no way to change the rules, only to adapt to the rules. Building a world was the most important thing now. With a world, they wouldn't be erased so easily. But where could they find the world's origin? It was really worrying. They couldn't panic. If they panicked, it would be easy to cause problems. Phew, we're fine this time. 2333 said. This time? There's a next time. Ning Shu didn't dare to relax at all. Of course, there will be a batch every time. Ning Shu was speechless. Mom, the world is so dangerous. She hoped that the next time she cleaned, she would have successfully built a world and wouldn't have to be so worried. Ning Shu sat cross-legged on the sofa. She was lucky to live until now. She just didn't know if she could see her parents again in this life. The flow of time in every world was different. She didn't know how her parents were now. Ning Shu lay down on the sofa and decided to take a nap. There was no point in worrying. When she woke up again, Ning Shu felt much better. She had escaped this disaster and could live for a while longer. Work hard, do your best. Ning Shu moved her neck and took a book from the bookshelf to read. After reading it, she put the book back on the shelf and said to 2333, let's go do the quest. Tell me, which world's origin is most likely to appear in? It's possible in every world, but not every world. This thing is not easy to form, or it wouldn't be so precious. 2333 said. It depends on fate. Ning Shu was speechless. She had a bad life. She hoped that her luck stat would be useful. She hoped that she could find the world's origin. Let's do the quest. Only by doing quests could she become stronger. Ning Shu had no other wishes now. She just wanted to live. Even survival was a problem. Everything else was behind. If God blocked her, she would kill God. If Buddha blocked her, she would kill Buddha. Ning Shu felt dizzy and entered the world. Her soul slowly merged into a body. She didn't know what the background was this time. Chapter 1295. Ning Shu didn't like the universe. It was too big. For example, the distance between planets couldn't be reached by car. It was even more impossible by foot. There were many things that couldn't be achieved by one's own strength. She would rather have a smaller world. Ning Shu opened her eyes. She saw a simple but elegant curtain. There were flowers embroidered at the bottom of the bed. They weren't big red or purple flowers, but pink and white flowers. It was very simple and elegant. Third Miss, you're awake. A girl dressed like a maid came in with a copper basin. There was a cloth on the edge of the basin to clean her face. Ning Shu nodded and let the maid clean her face. Ning Shu scanned the decorations around her. This time, she should be a young lady from a big family. After cleaning her face, Ning Shu said to the maid, "You go out first. Miss, I have to help you dress. If I'm late, Mr. Lu will punish you," the maid said. "All right then." Ning Shu allowed the young maidservant to dress her up. Then, she began to receive the plot. She had to know the plot. Looking at the background, it was a bit like a house fight. In ancient times, the women in the backyard fought for their husband's favor and power in the backyard. She had to know the identity of this body. The original owner was called Lu Yueyun. Her father was a second-rank minister of war. He had a high position. But Lu Yueyun was a concubine's daughter and ranked third. Actually, Lu Yueyun was just a passerby. She was cannon fodder swept away by the conflict. The main character was the second-ranked Lu Juning. She was the daughter of the first wife. Moreover, this Lu Juning had been reborn, and she had been reborn with boundless hatred. In her previous life, Lu Juning became the third prince's wife. She worked hard to help the second prince defeat the crown prince. So many competitors became the emperor, and she became the empress. But the second prince hooked up with her concubine's sister. They hooked up a long time ago. It was just to use the power of her maternal family to marry her. She worked hard to help the second prince. In the end, when the second prince ascended the throne, he removed her position as empress and made her sister the empress. He didn't even let their child go. The scumbag killed his own son. Lu Juning watched his son die in front of him. Lu Juning was hacked to death by 1,000 cuts. Before he died, he regretted that he had let his grandfather's family give up their military power in order to solidify his position. His maternal grandfather's entire family was also executed. The reason was laughable. He had colluded with the enemy and committed treason. Lu Juning swore that if there was an afterlife, he would make these people pay with their blood. After her death, Lu Juning was reborn. She was reborn in a boudoir before she married the scumbag prince. Lu Juning looked at the woman who was occupying her mother's position. "You want to be promoted as a lowly concubine? You will never have the chance to be promoted in this lifetime." There was also the bitch who instigated a scumbag to kill her son and steal her position as empress in her previous life. In this life, I'll let you all taste the pain of wishing you were dead. The position of emperor, scum can forget about it for the rest of your life. Because of the prophecy, Lu Juning began to plan. Sparks flew along the way as she defeated the mother and daughter in the backyard. She targeted the scumbag prince so that the scumbag would never be able to become emperor in this lifetime. She had already given up on love, but in this life, she met a man who was so loyal to her. Her heart was slowly softened by this man who loved her deeply. The previous Lu Yueyun did not participate in the battle between the two in her previous life. When Lu Juning was removed from her position as empress, Lu Mingxian became empress and gave the previous Lu Juning a marriage. She married into the Marquis manor and was the eldest son of the first wife. He would inherit the Marquis manor in the future. In Lu Juning's eyes, Lu Mingxian and the previous Lu Juning were on the same side. Even if Lu Yueyun did not do anything to hurt her, she was still a fence-sitter. After her rebirth, the battle between Lu Juning and Lu Mingxian was very intense. Lu Mingxian wanted to make Lu Juning lose her innocence. Of course, Lu Juning would not fall into her trap. In order to sow discord between the previous Lu Juning and Lu Mingxian, she dragged the previous Lu Juning into it. The previous Lu Juning had lost her innocence. Lu Juning came in front of the previous Lu Juning and told her that it was Lu Mingxian who planned this. Naturally, she wanted the previous Lu Juning to deal with Lu Mingxian. But the previous Lu Juning did not have time to deal with Lu Mingxian before she died of an illness. She was sent to the family temple for the rest of her life. The previous Lu Juning's wish was, if she was not schemed against, she would not marry the eldest son of the Marquis Manor. The eldest son of the Marquis Manor that Lu Yueyun married was actually a poor person. Otherwise, with his status, he would have married a daughter of the first wife of a noble family and not a concubine's daughter. For the sake of his reputation, this eldest son had never exposed his homosexual tendencies. He also did not have a concubine in the manor. After marrying Lu Yueyun, he only had Lu Yueyun as his wife. Outsiders said that Lu Yueyun had a good life. She married into a noble family and her husband did not take in concubines. Only Lu Yueyun knew the bitterness of this. It was probably because of this that the reborn Lu Juning did not like the previous Lu Juning. She felt that this person was a despicable person. She relied on flattering Lu Mingxian to marry into this kind of family. When Lu Mingxian schemed against her innocence, Lu Juning had Lu Yueyun take the place of this shameful scene of catching adultery. Ning Shu finished accepting the plot and let out a long sigh. It really was a scene of a group of women fighting. Ning Shu did not know what to say about this plot. There did not seem to be any logical problems. She was reborn to kill the scum man and the slut. However, how bad was the character of the female lead, Lu Juning, to make her husband, who was already married and had a child, hate her so much that he did not even let his own flesh and blood go. Cut her into pieces. It was as tragic as it could be. Let's just say that the scum man was inhumane. However, if Lu Juning had not schemed for the scum man's throne in her previous life, then she should have been resourceful. How did she not know that her husband and her sister were together? Fortunately, she let the scum man become the emperor and made her maternal grandfather's family hand over their military power to consolidate the scum man's throne. Wasn't this putting a rope around her maternal grandfather's neck? Then she would become the empress. Then it could only be explained by love. She was blinded by this pile of shit called love. As long as you promise me love, I will overturn this world for you. Ning Shu, she worked so hard just for a little love. Shouldn't she chop the scum man up? Anyway, she had a son. Wouldn't it be great to help her son ascend the throne and be the regent empress? She put her hand on the beautiful man's hand and asked, "What do you see?" The beautiful man, "The landscape is picturesque." Wrong, it's Aijia's picturesque landscape. The result was all kinds of tragic. Her child was thrown to his death and she was cut into pieces. Before she died, she cursed all kinds of things and was reborn to take revenge. I did so much for you, but you don't love me. You lied to me, blah blah blah. I was devoted to you and even caused the death of my maternal grandfather's family. But you treat me like this. Ning Shu only wanted to say that she was wronged. Her hands were also stained with blood when she helped men fight for power. But now it was her turn. Why did she feel so wronged? Hee, I love you, so you have to love me. I did so much for you, so you have to love me. He did not know where this logic came from. Chapter 1296. After Ning Shu finished reading the plot, there were only 3 words in his heart. Adulterous couple. All crows in the world are equally black. For a man, she even gave up her family. Being treated like this by a man, she was filled with resentment. In her next life, she wanted you to die a horrible death. She was clearly hurt by love in her previous life. In this life, she still found a man. After taking revenge on the scum, she definitely wanted happiness. Happiness needed a man. And this man's identity had to be nobler than the scum. When she was in danger, this man could come and save her. Miss, it's done. The maid Yuan Xiang used a wooden comb to compress Ning Shu's hair. Ning Shu made a sound of acknowledgement. Looking at Lu Yueyun in the bronze mirror, she looked to be around 12 or 13 years old. Her appearance was not outstanding. Compared to Lu Juning and Lu Mingxian, Lu Yuan's presence was much lower. Ning Shu hurried to the inner courtyard. In a family like the Lu family, the women in the family had to learn all kinds of things. Needlework, women's discipline, zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting had to be able to show off and increase their value. Mr. Lu was a teacher invited by concubine Yun, who was Lu Mingxuan's birth mother. She was very strict. If she was late, she would be beaten. Ning Shu arrived at the school and saw that she was the only one who was not there. "Third sister, you were almost late today," Lu Mingxian said to Ning Shu. Ning Shu sat down in his seat and said while panting, "I woke up late." Lu Mingxian was wearing an aqua blue embroidered moon gown and a soft silver lily skirt. She had an exquisite hairpin on her head. Lu Mingxuan's clothes had already surpassed the standards of a concubine's daughter. But who told Lu Mingxuan's birth mother, concubine Yun, to be in charge of the Lu family's inner courtyard? Lu Mingxian also had a 7 or 8-year-old younger brother. He was the only son in the inner courtyard, so concubine Yun was very confident. She wanted to make her the wife, but Father Lu was a high official in the court. If he really made her the wife and did something inappropriate, the imperial censor's report would fly to the emperor's desk. Therefore, concubine Yun only had the right to be a wife, but not the title of a wife. Ning Shu took out the embroidery that she had not finished last time. She looked at the basket of scissors, thread of various colors, and so many needles. Ning Shu silently put down the embroidery. Ning Shu looked at the 3 people in the classroom. Lu Juning was the most stable person in the classroom, with a maturity that did not match his age. There was a black aura and a murderous aura between his eyebrows, as if there was something difficult to resolve. She made it hard for people to get close to her, cold and incomparable. There was also the 4th young miss, who was also a concubine's daughter like the original owner. However, her biological mother had a difficult labor when giving birth to her. For so many years, she had been raised by a wet nurse, and her presence was even lower than the original owner's. Where there were people, there would be Jianghu. Where there were women, it was even more terrifying, especially the women who were locked up in the backyard. They were like goo worms in a wok, killing each other. Although it was not that terrifying, but for a hairpin, a pair of earrings, or something like that, it was possible to have conflicts. Feeling that someone was looking at her, Lu Juning tilted her head to look at Ning Shu. Her eyes were cold, and Ning Shu could feel that there was a trace of disdain in her eyes. Ning Shu sighed in his heart. The original owner was often taught by his biological mother to be cautious and not cause trouble. If he could take a step back, then take a step back. Although the eldest young Miss Lu Mingxian was not a daughter of the first wife, she was raised as such. Her biological mother, concubine Yun, was in charge of the entire backyard, so she should not fight with Lu Mingxian. The second young Miss Lu Juning was a daughter of the first wife, and her maternal grandfather was a great general. Although her mother had died early, her status was noble, so she should not fight with Lu Juning. Lu Yuan only wanted to protect herself. In that life, Lu Mingxian had given her a homosexual, and in the next life, Lu Juning had taken her virginity. She no longer had any value, and instead dragged down the family's reputation. She was killed and then sent to the family temple. Not fighting did not have a good ending. Sometimes, fighting was for survival, and sometimes it was for fame and fortune, fighting for a high position. Oh my, killing people without spilling blood. Teacher Lu was a woman with many talents. It was said that she had been a teaching nurse in the palace, and concubine Yun had spent a large amount of money to hire her to teach the young misses in the Fu. Having been taught by a nurse from the palace, the value of the young misses in the Fu would be higher. Teacher Lu walked in with a ruler. She first swept her eyes over the people present. Seeing that everyone was present, she nodded her head in satisfaction. When Lu Juning saw this Teacher Lu, her expression became severe. Clearly, she had thought of something bad. Teacher Lu walked straight to Lu Juning and sternly asked, "Second young miss, the task I gave you yesterday has been completed." Lu Juning's expression became colder and colder. She took out the woman's ring that she had copied. "Teacher, it has been completed." Teacher Lu only casually flipped through it and said, "You don't have to copy it completely, but the handwriting must be neat. Look at your handwriting, seeing words is like seeing a person. You need to practice more." "I understand, teacher," Lu Juning said greedily. Even Ning Shu could see that Teacher Lu was purposely making things difficult for Lu Juning. If Lu Juning did not complete it, she would not be able to escape the punishment. After copying it, he said that the handwriting was not good. In any case, he was thinking of ways to find fault. Lu Juning lowered her head, her expression full of sarcasm. In her previous life, it was this old woman who said that she was stupid, causing her reputation to become very bad. It was concubine Yun who purposely ruined her reputation so that it would be convenient for Shen Hao to marry her, using her grandfather's family to ascend to the throne. She must think of a way to deal with this tigress. Ning Shu was hit twice because her needlework was not completed, and it was not done well. Fourth young Miss Lu Yujing was also hit twice. Ning Shu felt that Teacher Lu hit Lu Yujing harder than he hit her. 2 slaps, it was painful just hearing it. As expected, he was a person who looked at the dish. Lu Yujing's birth mother was no longer around. There was no one to take care of her in the Lu family. Teacher Lu naturally did not need to care. Teacher Lu also taught some content of the female precepts. The task was to memorize the content of the female precepts. This was clearly a futile thing that restricted a woman's rights. She had to memorize it. Ning Shu glanced at it and memorized it. Her needlework was more difficult for her. It was already good enough that she could sew the clothes, but she still had to sew flowers. It was not just one flower, but one piece. It was fine if it was just one piece, but she had to sew butterflies. With Ning Shu's fast-paced life, she could not play with this at all. After more than 4 hours of class, today's class was considered to be over. Ning Shu hurried out of the classroom and asked the maid, Yuan Xiang, to prepare food. She was really hungry. "Young miss, concubine Lu asked you to go over for a meal. She said that she has something to say to young Mississippi," Yuan Xiang said. Ning Shu went to concubine Lu's courtyard. Concubine Lu was Lu Yuan's birth mother. However, she could not call her mother. She could only call her concubine. Concubine also could not call her daughter. She could only call her third young Mississippi. Chapter 1297. Concubine Lu was standing at the entrance of the courtyard. When she saw Ning Shu, her eyes lit up and she looked at Ning Shu eagerly. "Concubine Lu." Ning Shu called. Concubine Lu was a pretty girl from a humble family. She wasn't very pretty, but she was very comfortable. Her father was a small official in a small place. To be able to become the concubine of a second-rank official of the Ministry of War was already out of her league. But because she came from a small place, she always had a petty feeling about her. "Third miss, is it hard to learn from teacher?" Concubine Lu asked Ning Shu. Ning Shu said, "It's okay." Concubine Lu had the servant girl beside her bring out the food and then kept helping Ning Shu with the food. "Third miss, I heard that you were beaten by teacher today." Concubine Lu looked worriedly at Ning Shu. The news spread quickly. Concubine Lu said earnestly to Ning Shu, "Third miss, you must work hard. That teacher is a nanny from the palace. If you can get his praise, you can also marry into a good family in the future." Ning Shu was speechless. "If your reputation is good, then people will come to propose marriage." Concubine Lu continued, "What do we women want? Isn't it to be able to marry a good husband? You crawled out of my stomach. You are a concubine's daughter. But if you marry well, your life will be good in the future. Concubine Lu said sadly. Ning Shu 8. Life at home wasn't good, but would it be good if she married? Who knew what it would be like when she reached her husband's family? A husband had many wives and concubines. There were also parents-in-law. If the family was more complicated, there would be sisters-in-law. Life would be a mess. Ning Shu wasn't in a hurry to get married at all. The original owner married a young master of the Marquis family. It wasn't bad. She had good food and a good place to live. Her husband didn't come to bother her. She ran to other men every day. But it was equivalent to being a living widow. The original owner was a virgin until her death. She didn't have a child. If she couldn't have a child, it was usually the woman's fault. It had nothing to do with the man, so she was under a lot of pressure. This was obviously a marriage scam. The original owner was a wife in ancient times. Third Miss, do you remember everything I told you? Concubine Lu looked at Ning Shu eating with his head down and couldn't help but say, if you continue like this, how can you get married? Ning Shu was speechless. How helpless. Ning Shu nodded. I'll remember it all. Learn needlework well, learn to compose poems and play the zither, and learn the precepts for women. That's right. Concubine Lu laughed and picked up some food for Ning Shu. Also, don't get into a conflict with eldest Miss and second Mississippi, I know. Ning Shu nodded and didn't want to argue with Concubine Lu. It would only make her worry. Even if he was doing a mission, he had to do it secretly so that his hands wouldn't be stained. Concubine Lu chattered non-stop throughout the meal. She told her to work hard, to find a good man, and to marry into a good family. Ning Shu readily agreed. After the meal, Ning Shu quickly left. Her mind was filled with Concubine Lu's words. Sometimes, a woman's confinement came from a woman. A mother taught her daughter to be like a good wife teaching her husband and children. Women themselves were the protectors of a male-dominated society. Ning Shu returned to her room and saw the things in the embroidery basket on the table. She couldn't help but rub her eyebrows. This thing really made people, you can leave first. I'll take a nap, Ning Shu said to Yuan Xiang. Miss, you should embroider the mission that Mr. Lu gave you first. Otherwise, Concubine Lu will be anxious again, Yuan Xiang said worriedly. Her fate was closely related to Mrs. She would marry with Miss in the future. If Miss didn't marry well, her life would be bad. So Yuan Xiang advised Ning Shu, Miss, you should hurry up and embroider the mission. Otherwise, you will be punished by Mr. Lu tomorrow. Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu smiled and said, I'll just take a nap. I can definitely do this well. Yuan Xiang looked a little suspicious, but she still left and closed the door. Ning Shu sat cross-legged on the bed and began to cultivate. If she was really forced to take the blame, she would have a chance to escape. In this ancient era where etiquette was strict, a woman's innocence was greater than heaven. Without innocence, she would be abandoned by her family. Even without her family, Ning Shu felt that she could survive. However, she was very unhappy to be pulled in for no reason. She also had to marry a homosexual. Therefore, it was important to have strength, very important. The air in ancient times was fresh and there was abundant spirit energy. After staying on planet Selder, Ning Shu felt that no matter where she was, it was a paradise with abundant spirit energy. There was only comparison when there was comparison. When her body cultivated a trace of strength, Ning Shu stopped cultivating and began to embroider in a refreshed state. The embroidery that Mr. Lu had arranged was a begonia flower. The original owner hadn't finished it at all. When Ning Shu came, Ning Shu still hadn't finished it and was hit twice. The begonia flower was half done, and the stitches were a little rough. It was obvious that the original owner's needlework wasn't the best. Embroidery was also an art. Ning Shu picked up the needle and began to embroider. But how should she insert the needle? Ning Shu inhaled and exhaled and began to embroider slowly, searching for skills in the original owner's memory. There was a lot of theoretical knowledge, but she didn't know how to embroider. However, Ning Shu did embroider in the end, but it wasn't very good. Forget it, I'll just report it like this. Ning Shu finished the embroidery and put it in the basket. She rubbed her eyes and began to cultivate. Cultivation was the most important thing. She would only think about embroidery after cultivating. Ning Shu also wanted to embroider well and strive to be a woman with a fierce tiger in her heart who sniffed the roses. Wahahaha, miss. Yuan Xiang's voice sounded outside the door. Ning Shu stopped and sat on the stool. Yuan Xiang came in and saw the things in the basket. Miss, you're already done. Ning Shu nodded. Yuan Xiang picked up the embroidery and looked at it. Her expression became a little strange. She then said, Miss Embroidered. Ning Shu knew what Yuan Xiang wanted to say. Although the embroidery wasn't good, it was still done. She could take it slow in the future. She felt that embroidery was more difficult than cultivation. I want to go out of the house. Ning Shu said. Yuan Xiang was a little surprised and asked, Why are you going out of the house? Madam might not agree. My body isn't feeling well. My period is probably coming. My stomach hurts. I need to get the doctor to prescribe some medicine. Ning Shu said. She needed to get some medicine. In the battle between Lu Juning and Lu Mingxian, there were both overt and covert, and all sorts of underhanded things were flying everywhere. Aphrodisiacs, knockout drugs, poison, witchcraft dolls. She also needed to get something to defend herself. If these methods were used on a scumbag, he would have already ascended to heaven and become the Empress Dowager. When Yuan Xiang heard that Ning Shu was going to see a doctor, she didn't say anything and helped Ning Shu do her makeup again. After everything was done, Ning Shu went to the main courtyard to ask Concubine Yun for instructions. If Concubine Yun didn't allow it, she couldn't go out. Chapter 1298. In ancient times, the young ladies of noble families could not run outside for no reason. They could only go out if the mistress said they could. Their daily activities were in the back courtyard. Since they were so bored, they definitely had to find something to do. Then let's fight. The main courtyard was very imposing. Ning Shu had to ask the servant girl at the door if she could see Concubine Yun. Third young miss, Madam asked you to go in. The servant girl Ning Shu said. Ning Shu thanked her and walked into the main hall. Concubine Yun's posture was very big. There were several servant girls serving her. She had the air of a mistress. Concubine Yun did not have the title of official wife. Although everyone in the Fu called her Madam, outside of the Lu family, no one acknowledged it. The room was magnificent and there were all kinds of exquisite decorations. Concubine Yun sat on a soft couch. She wore a brocade dress and her hair was covered in pearls. Her posture was very imposing. If people lacked something, they would work hard to show it off. The more Concubine Yun showed off her style, the more it showed that she wanted to be promoted. Ning Shu bowed, greetings to Madam. Concubine Yun put down the teacup and asked casually, what's the matter? Every time my period comes, my lower abdomen hurts unbearably. I want to go out of the Fu to get some medicine. Ning Shu said honestly. She lowered her head and looked very humble. Concubine Yun grunted, do you have enough money? Enough. I have money. Ning Shu said. Concubine Yun's brows relaxed a little. The family's sedan bearer will be used by the master later. No need for a sedan. I can walk. Ning Shu said. Concubine Yun nodded with satisfaction, go early and return early. Thank you Madam. Ning Shu bowed and left with Yuan Xiang. Outside the door, Yuan Xiang complained, how can you let the young miss walk? What if someone bumps into the young miss? Usually, the eldest and second young miss can use a sedan when going out. Yuan Xiang was very dissatisfied. When the young misses of big families went out, they had to use a sedan. It was for transportation. Most of the girls had their feet tied. They could not walk fast and could not walk much. Secondly, it was to prevent lechers from molesting women. With the sedan bearers around, it would not be so easy. At the same time, it was also a symbol of status. Ning Shu glanced at Yuan Xiang. You can't say such things out loud. If Madam hears you, you should know the consequences. If there were too many people around, it would be difficult for her to move around. Ning Shu went to the pharmacy to let the doctor take his pulse and then grabbed the medicine. Ning Shu shook off Yuan Xiang and went to another pharmacy to grab some more medicine. After grabbing the medicine, Ning Shu saw Yuan Xiang looking for her everywhere. She was so anxious that her face was red. Ning Shu walked over and patted her shoulder. Miss, how could you run around like that? You scared this servant to death. Yuan Xiang said with red eyes. Ning Shu gave Yuan Xiang a candy figurine. I saw this. Miss, don't run around. Yuan Xiang took the candy figurine. Seeing that it was getting late, Ning Shu and Yuan Xiang hurried back to the residence. At the gate, they met Lu Juning, who had just gotten off the sedan. It seemed that she had just returned from somewhere. She should have gone to her maternal grandfather's house. In her previous life, she caused the death of her maternal grandfather's family. Was she going to make it up to her in this life? At the same time, she would also make use of her maternal grandfather's power. Lu Juning's expression was cold and her temperament was cold. After experiencing such a thing in her previous life, she could not be happy. Lu Juning came down from the sedan and glanced at the bag of medicine in Yuan Xiang's hand. Then, she looked at Ning Shu. Did he have to look at her with disdain every time he saw her? Why did he look at her with disdain? Was it because the original owner was wise and did not help her? Was it because the original owner married well in her previous life? But there was no need to count the original owner, Lu Yueyun, as an enemy. Helping you was a favor. Not helping you was my duty. Everyone had a hard time living. Hello, second older sister. Ning Shu bowed to Lu Juning. There was a difference in seniority. Since she had seen her, she had to bow to Lu Juning. Lu Juning only coldly grunted in acknowledgement and entered through the door. Ning Shu did not care about Lu Juning's attitude. You can do whatever you want. Lu Juning, who was walking in front, suddenly turned around and looked at Ning Shu. She asked, third younger sister, what medicine did you buy? Ning Shu said shyly, it's for abdominal pain. It hurts every time. So it's like that. Lu Juning nodded coldly and turned to leave. Ning Shu felt a bit strange and returned to his room. No matter how Lu Juning and Lu Mingxian fought, as long as she did not get involved, she was too lazy to care. Strictly speaking, these two had both cheated the original owner and pushed him into a pit of fire. He could not even climb back up. Ning Shu had Yuan Xiang boil the medicine. Drinking the bitter medicine was really tempting. After eating dinner and waiting for Yuan Xiang to fall asleep, Ning Shu took out the medicine he bought during the day and began to make it. Ning Shu made a knockout drug, poison, and a strong aphrodisiac. Not only you people would use these things. Because they knew the importance of reputation, everyone was trying to pour dirty water on each other. Really? Ning Shu carried the medicine he made with him. If something unexpected happened, it would be easy to deal with it. The next day, Ning Shu was still beaten. The reason was that the embroidery was too ugly. Although he finished embroidering a begonia flower, it did not look like a flower from afar. Mr. Lu found fault with Lu Juning, but Lu Juning did a good job. Mr. Lu could only find some flaws that sounded very forced. Among the four people, only Lu Mingxian received Mr. Lu's praise every time. Lu Mingxian did a good job. Ning Shu felt that concubine Yun's ambition was very big. Lu Mingxian was also very ambitious and aimed for glory and wealth. The third Prince Shenhao was really awesome. He took the two sisters of the Lu family into his arms. After using one, he supported another to become the empress. He really knew how to play. Lu Juning saw that Mr. Lu was trying his best to praise Lu Mingxian, and her expression was very sarcastic. Ning Shu supported his chin and looked at the two people. Under this kind of atmosphere, it was really tiring. He was beaten by the teacher every day, and he also had to face two people who were strange. In order to not be beaten again, Ning Shu made up his mind to embroider the begonia flower. After school, Ning Shu went straight to his courtyard. Third sister. A voice sounded from behind. Ning Shu turned and saw fourth Miss Lu Yujing. When she came closer, he asked, "Fourth sister, what's the matter?" Lu Yujing said softly, "Third sister, you teach you needlework. You teach me how to memorize." Lu Yujing's voice was very soft. If Ning Shu did not listen carefully, he would not have heard it clearly. Ning Shu nodded, "Okay." She originally wanted to ask concubine Lu how to embroider, but since Lu Yujing came, it was convenient. However, Lu Yujing's embroidery was better than hers. Are we going to your courtyard or my courtyard?" Ning Shu asked. "Let's go to your courtyard," Lu Yujing said. Her courtyard was too shabby. Ning Shu nodded and brought Lu Yujing to his room. Chapter 1299. Lu Yujing looked at Ning Shu's room and said enviously, "Your room is so beautiful." Ning Shu didn't think it was beautiful. Lu Mingxian and Lu Juning's rooms were beautiful. Lu Yujing probably had never been allowed to enter their rooms. Ning Shu and Lu Yujing sat around the table. Ning Shu held embroidery in his hands and Lu Yujing held the woman's precepts. Lu Yujing couldn't memorize the woman's precepts every time because she didn't recognize some characters. Lu Yujing was only 10 years old and didn't recognize some difficult characters. Teacher Lu's progress was based on Lu Mingxuan's. They were here to accompany the crown prince and didn't know how to teach him word by word. Especially Lu Yujing, she didn't need to care. Ning Shu told Lu Yujing how to read this character. Lu Yujing told her how to insert the needle and how to embroider. Ning Shu said with surprise, "How do you know so much?" Lu Yujing's face was red and she said in a small voice, "I learned from the wet nurse." Lu Yujing usually didn't have much to do and her presence was very low. She was quiet and introverted. She actually found sustenance in needlework. When she had nothing to do, she would embroider things. Sometimes, the embroidery she made could be sold for money. Ning Shu nodded. See, that was why it was so important to have a skill that could support oneself. Lu Yujing could earn money at such a young age. Although the Lu family was a large family, not everyone could take care of them. The more this kind of place was, the stricter the hierarchy. Sometimes, Lu Yujing was completely ignored. This time, concubine Yun allowed Lu Yueyun and Lu Yujing to learn from teacher Lu probably because she wanted to be a green leaf to match the red flower. "Third sister, you can't tell madam that I sell embroidery." Lu Yujing's face was pale. "I won't." Under Lu Yujing's guidance, Ning Shu grasped a bit of the technique. Although her embroidery wasn't very good, it was better than the mess from before. She really didn't want to be beaten. Giving a plum in return for a peach. What did Lu Yujing not understand? Ning Shu told Lu Yujing with all her heart. When Lu Yujing left, Ning Shu gave her a writing brush and an inkstone so that she could practice calligraphy. Lu Yujing looked at the brush and inkstone. Ning Shu thanked her, "Thank you, third sister." After Lu Yujing left, Ning Shu continued to embroider. When he found the pattern, he was not as clumsy as before. On the contrary, it was rather interesting. Mr. Lu would not teach them step by step. He would only assign tasks, and if they could not complete them, he would punish them with a plank. Ning Shu was not in a hurry. Anyway, there were plenty of people to deal with this Mr. Lu. He kept finding fault with Lu Juning. Lu Juning, who was full of anger now, would not let him go. Ning Shu hummed a tune while embroidering. In the future, even if she couldn't survive in the modern plane, she could still make a living by doing embroidery. Oh, he. With this thought in mind, Ning Shu began to embroider seriously, striving to obtain such a skill. However, after coming to this world, she had yet to meet the father of this body. The original owner didn't have much time to see her father. When Lu Yuanfan entered the backyard, he would usually find a concubine or go to concubine Yun's place. At most, they would gather to eat together during festivals. At other times, they would not see each other. His daughter would be taught by the woman who took care of the backyard. When his daughter grew up and was about to get married, he would bring it out. In fact, family affection was still very indifferent. Towards Lu Yuanfan, this father, there was only reverence. However, in the end, Lu Yuanfan was miserably dealt with by the reborn Lu Juning. He lost his official position and his reputation. Because Lu Yuanfan was a scumbag father, the daughter of a concubine was born earlier than the daughter of the first wife. When Lu Juning's mother married Lu Yuanfan, concubine Yun was serving tea with a big belly. Her mother died early. Lu Juning was tortured by concubine Yun openly and secretly. In her previous life, her reputation was ruined. In this life, Lu Juning put her scumbag father on the list of revenge. Moreover, Lu Juning always suspected that her mother's death was caused by depression before she could understand anything. Regarding her mother's death, Lu Juning's heart resented her father. Moreover, her scumbag father and concubine Yun occupied her mother's dowry. Many of the decorations in concubine Yun's room were Lu Juning's mother's dowry. Lu Juning gritted her teeth. One day, she would make them all spit it out, with interest. Basically, the entire Lu family was Lu Juning's enemy. Lu Juning directly chiseled through the Lu family's ship. Everyone was finished. And Lu Juning herself had a man who was deeply in love with her. Why would she need to care about the Lu family? Ning Shu did not care anyway. If something really happened to the Lu family, she would take concubine Lu out to live. She would be able to live. Perhaps it would be a bit more difficult. Ning Shu put down the embroidery. She rubbed her eyes and began to cultivate. The stronger, the better. Lu Juning had strong hidden guards by her side. When the time came, the hidden guards would drag her to take the blame. That would be a grievance. In the middle of the night, Ning Shu heard movement in the main courtyard. There were footsteps coming and going. What happened? In the middle of the night. The next morning, Ning Shu asked Yuan Xiang to find out what had happened. In the main courtyard, if it wasn't concubine Yun, then it was Lu Mingxian. Ning Shu had a premonition that Lu Juning had made a move. Yuan Xiang left for a while. When she returned, Ning Shu shook her head. "Miss, this servant did not find out what happened." The people in the main courtyard were tight-lipped. This servant did not dare to be too obvious. Ning Shu nodded. "You did the right thing." Ning Shu packed up and went to school. Lu Mingxuan's seat was empty. It seemed that the person who had the accident last night was Lu Mingxian. Ning Shu reflexively looked at Lu Juning. Lu Juning's expression was indifferent. Seeing Ning Shu looking at her, she said faintly, "Third sister, is there a flower on my face?" Ning Shu only said, "Second sister, your hairpin is very beautiful." Younger sister is stunned. Lu Juning asked, "Do you want it?" Ning Shu waved her hand, "No need, no need." Even the hairpin on Lu Juning's head did not match any of the clothes in Ning Shu's wardrobe. The difference between a legitimate daughter and a concubine's daughter was like heaven and earth. Because Lu Mingxian did not come, Teacher Lu only said a few things and left. He did not even check the homework. Ning Shu was quite disappointed. He did not check the homework when he completed it seriously. When he did not do it well or did not do it, he checked it. After Teacher Lu left, Lu Juning also left. She was noble and cold. Only Ning Shu and Lu Yujing were left in the room. Lu Yujing asked Ning Shu in a small voice, "Third sister, what do you think happened to eldest sister?" Ning Shu shook her head, "I don't know." There was no news from the main courtyard. They also did not know. It probably was not something good. Ning Shu left the school and planned to return to her own courtyard. Yuan Xiang said to Ning Shu, "Miss, I heard that something happened to eldest miss." Of course she knew that something happened to Lu Mingxian. "Do you know what happened?" Ning Shu asked. Chapter 1300. He did not know what had happened for her to go to such great lengths to hide it. If he still did not know, Ning Shu decided to secretly climb the wall at night to see what had happened. Yuan Xiang looked around and whispered to Ning Shu, "I heard that eldest miss was bleeding profusely yesterday." "Bleeding profusely, is she injured?" "Bleeding profusely, could it be a miscarriage?" Ning Shu stopped this thought. How could she be pregnant? When he heard that she was bleeding profusely, this thought popped up in his mind. Last night, a basin of blood was brought out from the room. Yuan Xiang said, "This servant heard it from Xiao Chui." What was this situation? Yuan Xiang whispered, "It was said that eldest miss had a problem with her period and a doctor was called in the middle of the night. Eldest miss was in so much pain that she was rolling on the bed." Period pain. Period pain could be so painful. Blood was flowing profusely, and it was so painful. What was the problem? Do you know what the doctor said? Yuan Xiang shook her head, "I don't know." Period was a big matter for women. In addition, a woman's body was weak, and it was easy for problems to occur if they were not careful. Go ask around again, and pay attention to your own safety. Ning Shu said to Yuan Xiang and gave her some money. Yuan Xiang nodded. Ning Shu decided to go tonight to see what had happened. Yuan Xiang went out for a while before returning. Ning Shu first bowed and then said, "Young miss, this servant found out after much difficulty." What happened? Ning Shu put down the embroidery in her hands and asked. Yuan Xiang took a deep breath and said, "I heard that young miss ate something cold during her period, causing her stomach to hurt." A woman's body was at its weakest when she was on her period. She could not eat anything cold or spicy. How could a delicate flower like Lu Mingxian, who was carefully raised and accompanied by an old mama, not know about such things? And the doctor said that she took some extremely cold medicine, which caused her womb to be cold. Every time she had her period, it would be more painful. And if she doesn't take care of herself well, it would be difficult for her to get pregnant in the future. After Yuan Xiang finished speaking, Ning Shu said, "Miss, do you think this is true?" Ning Shu narrowed his eyes and recalled that Lu Juning had asked him what medicine he had bought. Lu Juning must have given this to Lu Mingxian. "It's definitely fake, just listen to the rumors," Ning Shu said to Yuan Xiang without much care, "don't spread this around." "Yes." Ning Shu picked up the embroidery and began to embroider. A woman's greatest value was her ability to give birth to children. If she couldn't even give birth to children, then this woman's value was not great. A cold uterus was the biggest taboo for infertility. It was not easy to conceive, and even if one was pregnant, it was easy to have a miscarriage. Moreover, the woman's body was not good. Lu Juning immediately attacked Lu Mingxuan's stomach. Just like the director of the family planning office. "Didn't you want to climb up? If you can't even give birth to children, let's see how you can climb up. Obey the father at home, obey the husband when married, obey the son when the husband dies. Children are what women rely on. Lu Mingxian was put in a difficult position by Lu Juning's move. The struggle was a bit scary. Ning Shu was embroidering when concubine Yun's head servant, Lu Zhen, came over. Lu Zhen first bowed to Ning Shu, then said somewhat arrogantly, "Third miss, Madam has asked you to go over. Is something the matter? Third miss will know when you go." Ning Shu put down the embroidery and followed Lu Zhen to the main courtyard. Why did she ask her to go? What did she ask her to do? Could it be that she was dragged into this matter? Ning Shu entered the main courtyard and saw concubine Yun sitting on the soft couch with a gloomy face. Her expression was very ugly. She was like a hedgehog with spikes all over her body, wanting to prick anyone she saw. At this moment, she was fiercely staring at Ning Shu. Ning Shu lowered his head and bowed. "What medicine did you buy last time? Where did you buy it?" Concubine Yun sternly asked Ning Shu. Concubine Yun's expression was very anxious. Ning Shu thought in his heart, Lu Mingxian really did have an accident, and it was a bit serious. Ning Shu immediately said, "I bought medicine to treat lower abdomen pain, I got it from Jishir Hall." "You really just got this medicine?" Concubine Yun stared at Ning Shu and had a servant go find someone from Jishir Hall. Ning Shu let out a sigh of relief in his heart. Sure enough, she went to another place to get the medicine. Otherwise, he would not be able to explain himself. Sure enough, she was dragged into this matter. Soon, the servant found the doctor in charge of Jishir Hall. Concubine Yun asked the doctor some questions and even had the doctor smell the dregs of the medicine to confirm that there was no problem. Although Ning Shu was no longer a suspect, concubine Yun's expression was still very fierce and strict. Her gaze when looking at Ning Shu was like a knife. Ning Shu, this was clearly taking out her anger on him. Concubine Yun waved her hand to let Ning Shu leave. Ning Shu left the courtyard and bumped into Lu Juning. Ning Shu stopped in his tracks. "Jijia also wants to go to Furin's place." Lu Juning nodded. "I heard that something happened to the Jijia, so I came to take a look." Ning Shu's mouth twitched. She deliberately came to anger him. "Why is concubine Yun looking for you? Did you do something wrong and get punished?" Lu Juning asked. The entire Lu Fu called concubine Yun Furin. Only Lu Juning directly called concubine Yun every time. Concubine Yun was so angry that she smashed things, but she did not make her the main wife. Lu Juning was not wrong to call her that. After all, Lu Juning was the daughter, a proper master. And a concubine could only be considered half a master. Ning Shu felt that Lu Juning did not have good intentions. He said faintly, "It's nothing. Furin just wants to talk to me." Lu Juning furrowed her brows. She looked at Ning Shu and said, "In this Fu, the only one who can be called Furin is my mother. Concubine Yun has not been promoted to the position of head wife. You calling her this is improper." Ning Shu, it was just a title. She would be stupid to go against concubine Yun. Calling her Furin did not mean that she was the main wife. You want to defend your mother's rights and position. What does that have to do with me? Ning Shu said faintly, "Everyone calls her that. Mimi can only call her that." She did not have the courage to go against concubine Yun who was in charge of the rear courtyard. Lu Juning looked at Ning Shu with a cold expression. Her eyes were filled with disdain. This kind of fence-sitter who did not have any stance at all was the most annoying person. Ning Shu, this kind of gaze again. I hate it when you look like the whole world has wronged me and I am the most wronged person. We are the same. Only you are allowed to scheme against others. Others are not allowed to scheme against you. In her previous life, she fought for power for men. Who knew how many people she had schemed against? How could she not remember? Ning Shu bowed in greeting, "Mimi, I will leave first." Ning Shu and Lu Juning brushed past each other. Miss, third miss is just a concubine's daughter. Why is she treating you like this? The servant girl beside Lu Juning said with dissatisfaction. Lu Juning said without much care, don't worry about her. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.